like to call to order the Operational Service Committee meeting for February 18th, 2025. If I can have a roll call.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Yes.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes.
Ms. Lansing?
Present.
Ms. Fabian? And President Ewing.
Here, we do have a quorum. Ms. Fabian is running late, but she plans to be here this evening. With that, first item up is item 3A, approval of the meeting minutes for December 17th, 2024 OSC.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Mr. Riddle.
Second.
Second by Ms. Gonzalez. Any comments, questions, or corrections to the minutes? All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Any opposed, nay. Minutes are approved. Information items, we have approval, or we want to go to the Yeoman Creek update. So from reports, we're going to be at item 6B.
Yes, thank you, Board President. Good evening, board members, superintendent, staff, and community. We did make the request to move item 6B, which is the Yeoman Creek update, to the first agenda item. We do have Mr. Harvey Sheldon, one of the district's outside counsel. He's joining us via phone if there are any questions on this item, but we did provide some information for you that's detailed in the agenda. Most notably, there was as of February 11th, an EPA approval for the work to begin for Clean Capital. We are going to be coming forward with a monthly update moving forward. We've attached a milestone schedule as well to the agenda item for reference, and we will have Clean Capital as well as power market representatives at the March 18th OSC meeting. And just for case of reference, power market is somebody that Clean Capital is partnering with to provide resources to the community and community outreach so that the residents know how to benefit from this program. And again, Mr. Sheldon is on the phone if there are any questions.
I guess my question is, looking at the timetable, I see it was like in June or so that this would be, project construction would be finished, and then by December, it looks like maybe, of this year, they would hope to be operational. Is that what I see on the timetable? And what happens if they're not?
Yes. So, go ahead, Mr. Sheldon.
LeBaron? Yes. Thank you, LeBaron and Mr. Chairman and members of the board, and those of you listening. Pleased to be with you tonight. The fact is that the construction should be complete and scheduled shows, perhaps in some technical language, that it will be completed by June 27th of this year, 2025, as per the lease. It is anticipated, and the schedule anticipates a need for paperwork and approvals, principally from the Illinois Power Agency, which will have to be obtained by the tenant. It's a tenant obligation. And they have put down in honest terms their best guess as to when that will be completed. And it all will happen this year, I think, before the winter officially kicks in. So it'll be by the fall. And the fact is that since the previous meetings with the board on this subject, the very good news is that all building permits were issued a couple of weeks back. All approvals from the EPA to go ahead have been given. There is some paperwork to clean up this week on details that are already agreed upon that just have to be confirmed in writing. And a kickoff meeting of the various parties, including EPA, LeBaron Moulton, and the tenant and its representatives, and the Yeoman Creek Remediation Group, which is supervising the tenant on behalf of the schools. That will occur sometime next week. And the belief is that they will be actually unloading the various parts needed to construct this solar field by early next month, and they will be launching their sales campaign at the same time. We will try to coordinate to the extent appropriate so that information is passed on accurately as far as we can to the public. I think, in other words, we are in very good shape as far as moving this thing along, and it's very pleasant for me to make this report. That's it for right now, unless you have questions.
Go ahead, Mr. Reyes.
Just a couple more questions. Mr. Sheldon, thank you very much for that update and report. Just curious again, the benefits to the district. Right now, I believe we're getting some rent from the company, but once the solar field is finished, will the district realize any other benefits from the company once they start selling their energy to ComEd and to customers? Will we be getting any rebates or will our rent go up? What will happen?
Well, up until now and until the project is actually operational later this year, there has been payment of costs that are accompanying our part of the bargain, which is the supervision and approval of plans through the YCRG at the rate of $10,000 a month. But once they pull the switch with approval from the IPA, they will owe us the full rent, and I believe it's in the neighborhood of under $20,000, but I apologize greatly because I hadn't looked at that in getting ready for this meeting, but we will get a lot more money. The schools will receive a substantial percentage of that money, and they will also get a share of what the YCRG gets for its administration. So the schools are going to be benefited substantially going forward once this thing gets going.
So does, Mr. Sheldon, does that mean energy credits? Is that the schools will get some energy credits back on their electric bill?
Excuse me, sir. I apologize for my cough. I've been a little under the weather. But I don't believe there are energy credits. It's a cash deal. And they owe us whether they make money or not, whether they produce credits or not. They have a lease obligation that is not dependent on profitability or credits.
So the most we're going to get is about $20,000 a month?
No, a year, I think. I've got to look it up. I'm ashamed not to know it off the top of my head. I apologize.
Okay, maybe you could get back to us on that. I'd be curious how much we're going to realize as a district from selling their solar energy to community. It's just a monthly rent, or
no,
is it?
It's a deal. This is a special program. It is the only program, if I understand correctly, that it's the only Solar for All program approved in Northern Illinois. And it is a program that will give the credits to the customers. The people will be buying power at lower cost than they otherwise have to pay Edison. And they will be able to use their credits as part of the formula to have that discount.
Okay, but the school district, if I'm understanding you correctly, the school district doesn't get any of those credits? We don't have a percentage of the electricity that it generates? The school district doesn't? Is that what you're saying?
The school can be a customer, and I'm sure they would be happy to negotiate with the school on the same terms. which are favorable terms.
Okay.
But that was not
That's not
part of the deal, in part because the schools at that time felt the energy plan they had was adequate. Excuse me.
Miss Hannah and then Miss.
Good evening, Mr.
That
Sheldon.
should be discussed probably in executive session.
Good evening, Mr. Sheldon. Anita Hannah here. Listen, I am, I've been sitting here for a while, and companies come to us often, and they parade in front of us and say that they're going to save us money through energy and so forth. And what I would like to see through this entire process is a consistent report that shows us what are we saving, how much money, how much credit, whatever it is, but we need a running ledger showing us exactly what it is that we're saving as we go through this project.
So,
Well, the basic economics of this is that the Yeoman Creek landfill is unfortunately, for the long term, a Superfund site.
Right.
It's got an envelope, but engineered container, if you will, a very large inland container with thick clay and very protected, very secure against various hazardous substances that are inside in the form of waste collected over the years when it was an operating landfill. And the problem that the YCRG faced and the community faced was, what do we do with that? And the idea of using the land for a solar site was raised actually several years back and considered, and very frankly, it was just about the only use going forward that all the members involved could feel would be safe and appropriate, and at the same time benefit the community.
Right.
In making that land useful. The benefit will be, for sure, in dollars and cents in terms of the rent. At the time, there was not a deal made on other terms, but I would expect to be open to you from, I am not authorized to speak for them, but from time to time they've indicated an interest in having the schools be a buyer, which would give you some additional savings. The last time that I was involved in any sort of direct analysis of this, the conclusion that I received from the schools was, and this is several years ago also, that it did not seem like it was something the schools needed, but it may have changed. And I'd be more than happy to work very closely with the board, with general counsel and with LeBaron to produce a report and to investigate and give you information on that so you can make a sound decision about that opportunity.
thank you, Mr. Sheldon. So, if I could just add to that as well, just so it's clear, the Yeoman Creek site, this is a rental land use agreement for Clean Capital. The district is not currently a
Client.
we're not a client. We're not purchasing power from the property.
Right.
So this is a rental agreement. And as Mr. Sheldon said, this was a solar fund site that's owned by the Yeoman Creek Remediation Group, and the district was an expense for the district for several years. So as we work through this schedule, we are committing to providing a monthly update moving forward. But Ms. Hannah, to answer your question, right now we're not going to see a reduction in utility spend and electricity costs for the district, because we're currently not a client directly impacted by this. We're only impacted by the rental agreement. Additionally, and I just wanted to confirm this since Mr. Riddle asked the question, we will come back with the definitive numbers for what that rent will be on a monthly basis or a yearly basis, Mr. Riddle. But to date, going back to FY22, which I believe is around the time that this started, it's been a few years, the district has collected $114,871.01. So that's rent. All the things that have been done in preparation for construction up to this point has been a part of this. So we have received some funds, as well as the Yeoman Creek Remediation Group, going back to fiscal year 22. And that number is anticipated to change potentially once this is fully operational. But like I said, Mr. Riddle will confirm that for you, just so you're aware. And if there is any interest in the district becoming a client, we can certainly explore that opportunity. But right now, it's just a lease agreement for the land.
And what was that amount of money you said?
Yes, the future cash flow from rent will be more and on a regular basis, and it will not depend on how much effort we make in terms of worrying about the site. At this point, it's more a measure of effort that has been put into this by legal and technical staff, the YCRG, and so forth. But that will change for the better, because it will be a regular payment that will have a small inflation rise component.
Ms. Lewis?
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Moulton, because I was going to summarize based on how I understand it, just to make sure we're all on the same page. So my understanding, and I believe you touched on this, is school property. We are leasing it out to this company, and they are paying us currently a lowered monthly rent. And this will benefit not just the school district with increased rent once it's operational, but also benefits the community with lowered resources, or lowered cost to resources for them through solar power.
Absolutely. It allows
Yes.
the ordinary citizen of Waukegan who gets their power down from ComEd to opt into, it's optional, but to opt into a program that allows them the kind of savings that these energy credits afford. And under Illinois energy policy, I would expect that they will be valuable. That's up to the state, but the program is optimal in terms of the kind of programs available to the ordinary person in the community.
Great. And it's completely up to Clean Capital to essentially market their product to say, you know, you can have access to solar without putting your own roof up with the panels. But I am curious on the final numbers, because it was a bit hard for me to understand, so I apologize, but it sounded like we are currently getting $10,000 a month, which the 114K does not support. So I got mixed on the numbers, so as soon as we have those, that would be great. I am just curious, whatever number you come back with, I want to know the term of that rental fee, that monthly rental fee.
It's a 20-year lease with a right to extend, so it's going to go for quite a while. I'll get you those numbers.
Okay.
And
Because if that number
and in
is for
fact,
20 years,
the fact is that the
is there a pay
power
schedule?
market and people from Clean Capital will have been invited and made aware of the next meeting. I think it's in March of this board. The meeting, at least on this subject of operations, and I am pretty confident they will attend and be in a better position to give you answers about the detail of the program, share some of their marketing material, not only with you, but with members of the public. And the plan is to stay in touch with that. Not only us as schools, but the city will be involved. And it's a very important outreach that is going to take place over the next months.
Okay, great. Yeah, I'm just hoping with the 20-year lease that we have an increase schedule, because if I was locked in at a certain rate for 20 years, I'd be a happy camper. But I think when we're the landowner, it's a different perspective. And then if we do look to be a client, I just would like to know the impact to our E-rate, because I'm not sure if if we would be able to fully sustain currently on solar power. So any impact to that would be great. That's all I got.
I'm afraid I didn't get every detail of the last speaker's
Apologies,
concerns.
Mr. Sheldon.
And I'm sure that LeBaron has taken good notes, and we'll be sure to get you answers. I just want to make clear.
Yes,
you
Mr.
expect
Sheldon.
answers.
Mr. Sheldon, we'll follow up on specifics. Thank you.
Thank you.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, and if we want to go back to the start of our agenda, we have information items that have been submitted. So I'll go through the information item. If any board member or audience member has a question, just put your hand up and wait to be recognized. 5A, approval of one-year contract renewal with Sodexo LLC. Go ahead, Ms. Fabian.
So I did receive a response on this as far as did we put out an RFP, and I do appreciate that you upped the timeline so that we do have time for that. I am requesting that. I know we've had issues in the past. I did see the PowerPoint, and I thank you for putting all that data together, and it does look like they have been improving. But for me, I think I would like to see what else is out there and compare, and then if it turns out that they're still the best option, then we do the renewal versus let's just keep doing the renewal and then do the RFP.
So the ask is to go out for RFP. So Deputy Moten, just advise the board what risk that poses.
So we went out to RFP for this program in 2023, spring of 2023, in preparation for the start of the 23-24 school year. And we did go through this last year as well, and we all elected to extend. We did allow about 3 more months in the schedule this year if that request were to be made. There are some potential risk. The timing for the RFP itself is not necessarily a risk. However, if through the RFP process there was a determination to go to a new vendor, then we'd be talking about onboarding of additional staff, potential equipment replacement based on what the district owns versus the outside agency, new training, rebranding, which would be an extensive summer project. So that would be the risk, but again, we wanted to bring this information before you earlier this year because it would not be feasible if we asked this recommendation in May. So
in a monetary, right? Sodexo doesn't have to come back at this agreed upon amount, right? So if they go out and you reopen the RFP process, they don't have to submit the same proposal.
Correct. If you see the maximum allowable, they're requesting a 3.6% increase, which is the maximum allowable. That percentage increase changes year to year. Last year it was 5.3%, but they could submit a proposal that is in excess of the amount for the renewal. You are correct, as well as the competition could.
Ms. Lindsay?
So I just have, I shouldn't ever say that. So yes, I'm happy this is coming to us earlier. I just want to clarify that last year we elected to extend, to use your words very specifically, because we essentially had no other option. So I'm glad that we're talking about this sooner so that we can have those options. Looking at the PowerPoint, it was disappointing to see that they've had their first meeting at Abbott Middle School when we brought up concerns a little less than a year ago, right? So to have one meeting of feedback to address some of the concerns, that's the impression I'm getting. So if that's not accurate, let us know with the Student Advisory Committee to get feedback from our students. So from me, that's not a lot of effort to get feedback from our students. I could be wrong in that, but that's my perception. I will say that if we do open up the RFP process, before we do that, I would just like us to do some market research, because even the cost of eggs, although some people thought they were going to go down, they're not. So just with the current food prices in our, yeah, seriously. With the current cost of food, I would like to do some market research first to see what could it look like and what that big difference is before we open up the RFP process and allow them to renegotiate to an even higher cost. And like, while yes, competition could keep their costs low, that's my only concern.
Okay, I am somewhat, what's a nice word? Look, disappointed, I'll say, okay, with the food service. And that, some of that comes from personal experience, okay? I won't go further into that. However, I know that there's one thing that Sodexo had put on the table with us that was supposed to be happening, but I have not seen it materialized, and that is the online ordering that they said that students were going to be able to do. And, you know, everybody, I'm sure the board members, we were really liking that, but it never materialized. And I don't know why. Maybe they can explain it, what happened, okay, with all of that. And from what I understand, there's a lot of the students, mainly the older students, that are tired of eating pizza every day. And so they need to do a little bit better for 8 million plus change. They really need to produce a better quality product for our students, and our students deserve the best. So I'm just saying, 8,231,690 is a lot of money for the quality that we have been getting for our students.
Absolutely. Couldn't agree with you more, Miss Hannah. Students and nutrition is very important to us. I wanna address a couple of things if I can. One is the app. You're absolutely correct. When we provided information a couple months ago, they had a representative here. I believe the product was Nutri-Slice, if I'm not mistaken. And you're correct. The rollout of that was, it didn't happen the way it was intended. The app did become active in order for updates to be pushed to parents as a communication if there were any menu changes, as well as to view menus. And I believe we showed some samples, but as far as the ordering of students, you're correct, that did not happen, and it has not happened to date. They're looking at that. So that was a program change, and we've discussed that extensively. Additionally, the quality of the food, and unfortunately Ms. Williams couldn't be here this evening, but we are a CEP district, we're a CEP program. So,
What's the acronym so people can know?
community eligibility provision. So, it's no excuse if there's a concern regarding quality. However, what they're ordering is in alignment with the regulations and standards as opposed to what some would call home-cooked meals. So I did just want to make that reference because that's something we've discussed in the past. And the menu items that have been presented to us are consistent with what they've provided in other contracts and proposals for some other districts.
I don't care about
So,
this.
yeah. So,
Can I share a comment?
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
Thank you, Mr. Moten. What I wanted to ask, if you could clarify to us the regulation around the RFP process and what the district is obligated to consider when we're making that decision.
sure. So in 2023, there was a change that did not obligate us to go to the lowest bid. So we evaluated several factors: quality of staff, whether they locally source their food, cost, of course, staffing level, org chart. There was a lot of different factors. I'm not recalling all of them off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But we did provide different weights and percentages for certain items in response to the RFP. Again, not just the low bidder, and that's how we came with Sodexo as a recommendation based on their proposal.
And thank you for clarifying that, because I do want to remind the board that when we went out to RFP, because we had been hearing from students that they wanted change, and I think even to date, I haven't heard as much of a complaint of the food, which is, I mean, it's great, but it could be better, right? I think, and I even said it then because I was the sole no vote, that we needed to do more research on the companies that completed the RFP, and I'm in support of the 1-year renewal like I was last year, because I think it's about building that relationship, right? I'm not the biggest fan of Sodexo, but that doesn't mean that they're not obligated to be responsive, because there's also now a financial risk in opening the RFP process. So, you know, right now I'm like kind of in conflict because we've had conversations like this in the past, but it's really more about how do we actually find the best fit partner and make the most informed decision when we go to RFP, because we don't know what we're gonna get, and then we just have to deal with what we get at that time. So I don't know. I just wanted to say that so that we kind of remember the context, because I mean, this relationship is only 2 years old, right? Even though maybe years and years past, Sodexo was the food provider before the other.
And they were good too.
Right. So maybe it's a management thing. We don't know. But we need to understand where that is, before we. And I wouldn't mind getting more frequent updates too about some of our. I mean, this is probably one of our biggest contracts, right? So having a more, and I know you guys have been doing the presentations, and I appreciate that, because that's not something, at least since I've been a board member, that we had gotten for the previous ones. But maybe this is something that we could emphasize more so that we don't have to go through the RFP again. But I mean, it's up to the consensus of the board, because we have 4 year 1 year 4-time 1 year renewal opportunity.
And I think that we need to get some more prices.
Market.
You know, and I guess that's what is being said about the market research. You know, because you know, we started with Sodexo at 6 million and some change, and now we're all the way up 2 million.
I believe it was closer to 7.7, 7.6 million initially 2 years ago. I'll confirm that number, but it went up 5.3% last year, and then this is 3.6%.
Right. And
So roughly 9%.
We are dealing with inflation and crazy and all that stuff, but we just have to be conscious of our contracts and everything. and, you know, making sure that, that they're producing what we're paying for. And that's all I have to say.
Mr. President, excuse me, if I could just, because thank you earlier, when you ask about the concerns, we're presenting this information this evening based on our relationship over the last 2 years. Now, Ms. Linsing brought up the research as far as goods and products, but we also have increased costs in labor that I suspect will be an additional consideration. One thing that is public is the contractual value that's currently in place with Sodexo, and what we've presented this evening is in the documents that are attached, as well as public for the board to consider, so you know the true picture financially of what it is. Every vendor who could submit a proposal for this RFP is aware of this, including Sodexo, as you mentioned. So there is that risk that we could see a $1 million, $2 million, $3 million increase just based on providing this information in and of itself. But again, we wanted to bring this information forward based on last year, so we're in a position to react and have options if that is the request of the board.
Yeah, Ms. Fabian.
So I guess I would be okay with doing the extension if we're going to have to do it again, if we're going to have to do an RFP next year anyway. I guess my concern would be that our timeline be moved up even earlier to allow for all of that market research so that we are aware of all of those key data points that you're saying, right, as far as labor costs and all of that, to make sure that we have time to dig into the data, because just the value of this contract, and it's a needed must-have, I think we need that time to really dig in and understand where all the money is going to, and that we're actually getting what we're being told we're going to get. So, for example, with this app, was that a throw-in addition, or was there a cost to that app that we're incurring, but we're not receiving that that actual product, right? So I think that's what we need to see is, are we getting our bang for our buck? And I understand too that not everybody, there are not that many providers that can provide for a district this large, and I know rural districts had started to go to like local restaurants to be able to get contracts, because it is difficult to follow the USDA guidelines for them. So I completely get all of that, which is why I think we need that time in order to really dig in and see what all our options are.
Sure. And just to clarify, Ms. Fabian, this is the second of a maximum 4 one-year renewals. So there's nothing that obligates the district to go do an RFP next year, but what we are obligated to do is either do the RFP or request a 1-year renewal again. So this is total. So this is the second renewal after the initial. So second renewal, but going into year 3 for the 25-26 school year. Just.
My question, with everything else that the district has going on and that would need to happen between now and the new year, I know that you all can do an RFP process, right? But would you be able to do that additional layer of market research before deciding to do an RFP without needing additional help or resources?
I'm going to speak for you because I don't want you to get in over your head. I think we're going to need additional resources. It's not that it can't be done. I think it's going to be a bigger lift in the time frame of right now being mid-February, and a couple of other big things that are coming on the plate with executive orders and DEI that this board is going to start having to have conversations with around. So I'm not saying we can. If it's the will of the board and consensus, you want to go out for a new RFP, definitely can do that. I'd ask that you give us another week to see what that timeline and what that lift would be like for us to give you a more accurate answer as to whether we can handle it inside, or what does that look like farming that out externally. I just don't want LeBaron to overpromise and underdeliver, or vice versa.
And thank you for saying that, Superintendent, because this presidential administration don't even want to feed kids. So like that's problem number one. So we don't,
Right.
you know.
We may not have it.
Lots of stuff up in the air right now. Yep.
So I just wanted that for clarity, is I have complete confidence that you all can do an RFP, but I know sometimes that market analysis, it requires a level of in-depth looking and research. Similarly situated districts, right, cost, region, all of those things. And if we had to outsource it, that's fine. I just want the board to be aware is that sometimes we get an idea, but they have to execute. And with everything else that we have going on, I think the decision in my mind to help clarify is either do we do an RFP or do we, or personally what I would suggest is either we decide to do an RFP or we decide to renew for 1 year. The market research provides an additional step that elongates the process and may be a little bit more in depth than, and again, we have very skilled individuals, but even in my job, right, you have your day job and then you have these other projects, and sometimes if the day job is a lot already, to add these projects, it can add a time where if what we really do want to do is a RFP, waiting 2 months puts us back in the situation that we wanted to avoid with bringing it forward earlier. So I think I credit the administration with bringing it as early as they could possibly get it on the agenda, and then it's up to the board to say, hey, these are our concerns. Can we work with Sedesco for 1 more year in order for them to approve it, or do we feel like they've had enough time and we want to go and see what our options are? But if we can kind of think about that, and if there is feedback or information provided to myself and the superintendent and Deputy Moten. Otherwise, Deputy Moten, the plan would be to bring this renewal forward at next week's board meeting.
That is the recommendation, yes.
And you said something very important in terms of bringing forth RFPs. Well, they've already saw other vendors are going to be able to see this price, and it's the bid process kind of will be kind of yucky, messed up, so to speak.
Everybody's going to go up or come
Yeah,
down to meet this
absolutely.
number, right?
Absolutely.
The price only goes up.
Absolutely.
Well, it might go
Well,
down
it
because
could-
they
yeah.
want to beat this.
They could take a $0.5 cut just to get the $7 mil business.
Right.
Yeah.
But
And
then
then give
the-
us the increase later.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole game.
It's a gamble.
I
yeah.
just don't want it to be that every year
It's the same thing, yeah.
conversation that we're
Right.
saying, well, we have this annual renewal for 2 more years, it's gonna take this much time, it's gonna
Mhm.
take this much effort, right?
Mhm.
So I understand that it does take time and effort, but I also don't want this to be the, I guess, perennial excuse of why we don't do
Mhm.
things. So if we can have a little bit more clarity about how big of a lift it would be, and then maybe we renew for this year, but with the understanding that we know that it takes this much time, this much resources, so that we can start earlier, and we know what earlier means,
Mhm.
because we'll know the time frame.
Yeah. And I think that's fair, and I think that's kind of, it is one of the things, once you lock in, they give you those 1 year renewals because it is a heavy lift. So to your point, at some point, you are required to look at it so it doesn't just roll over in perpetuity. But every time we've gone out, the number hasn't gone down, it's going up, right? And so sometimes, so I agree with all of the commentary. To kind of wrap it up as we move on, it sounds like we do what just kind of email summary of what the lift would be. There seems to be general consensus that most board members can support a 1 year extension. I would say if the board members have, either based on the presentation, like Ms. Lindsay provided, a concern in that there wasn't enough effort to get student voice. Ms. Hannah didn't give the issue, but she said she had a personal issue as far as quality, right? So if there are pointed concerns or examples, things that you guys are concerned about, what I do know, or at least in my interactions with Sodexo, is they have been open to suggestions and changes and responsiveness. So even if we do move forward with them, I still think it's fair, as they take our money, to have a plan to address what those concerns are. So
Can I just recapture this for clarity? So what I'm hearing the board state, and if I'm wrong, just let me know, that we are going to put this on the board agenda for next Tuesday's vote. However, we are going to look at what it would look like to do a market analysis and come back with that information on what that lift and timeline looks like in the next coming months. So is that correct? I just want to make sure I'm clarifying. Okay, then we will bring that to the board.
That's how I understood it, and then board members should be sending, I assume, Mr. Moten, our pointed concerns so that you can have those discussions with Sodexo, so that while we are using this time to do our market research and prepare for the next renewal, they can also strategize on how to keep us as a client if the next board decides that maybe this isn't a good fit and we do want to open up the RFP.
Perfect. I'm going to ask that those concerns are sent to Nick,
Oh,
so
okay.
that Nick can get all the questions. You could CC Mr. LeBaron so that the whole board members will have access to that information, please.
Wonderful.
go ahead, Mr. McBride.
Here, Jeff. Yep.
What is our concerns, what the kids are eating? Because I know I'm not over there every day watching them what they eat. And if they are complaining, nobody's never complained to me. I can remember in the past when we had Airmark, we having these same conversations. And at one point, what we wind up doing, the whole board, I think Airmark had us come over there and they had us sit down and watch what they were feeding. But once we did that, that changed. And my just concerns is we concerned about the dollar amount, or we could really concern about what the kids eating, because number one, we don't have to be in there every day at the cafeteria. I see pizza every day.
But it's
I'll-
food quality.
Can I finish,
Yeah.
please?
Both. It's
And
money
it's
and-
Can I finish, please?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. Speaking of food quality, I see it every day. I'm looking at it every day, and it's the same old food, even up there in Zion Bend. I know Miss Hannah said she's not worried about any other district, but I just happen to see it because I'm there every day. And the kids do complain. Sometimes I'm sitting there, I look at the tray, they throw the food in the garbage can. And that's because of the fact, number one, if I had the same thing every day, I'd get tired of it too. So, I mean, what are we really trying to do here? I mean, when it comes to as far as our kids dealing with nutrition and all those other things that we're speaking about in terms of what they eat. I mean, again, it's I don't know. Do we really have a lot to pick from? I don't know, but two that I've been watching for the last my 4 terms, and that's Airmark and Sodexo. I ain't seen nobody else. Airmark, Sodexo, and it goes back and forth. Every time one is not providing what they surprise, so we read back here again. So I mean, I'm just sitting there listening. And it sounds like to me over the years that I've been on the board, we go round and round in circles about what the kids eat. But I never really, and I don't know what to give you, LeBaron, in terms of information dealing with, unless I'm dealing with from a finance standpoint. As far as food, I don't know. I do know pizza come every day. But I know where I'm at, and I do see that we do have a chef there, and he does try to go out his way to do things different. And I can't say what's going on at the school because I can't see it every day. I don't know.
Yeah. Final comment, Ms. Lynn.
So, Ms. McBride, to your concerns, it is about the quality of food, and when we went to do our taste test with Sodexo, I had a picture of what my children were going to be receiving when they were going to school for their breakfast and their lunch. They come home and they'd say, oh, they had Pop-Tarts, they had Nutri-Grain bars for breakfast.
Spoiled milk.
Yeah, spoiled milk. They come home and they're asking me directly, can we go back to home lunches next year? So these are some of the concerns that our families are feeling and that they're having to field with their kids. What we were given on our taste test is not what my children are experiencing in the schools. So it's definitely about the quality of food. The price tag is going to be the price tag, right? But we should be getting quality food to put in our children's bellies for the breakfasts and lunch that we serve them. And there were 4 different companies, not just Aramark and Sodexo, last year during the RFP process. So there are other vendors out there. I believe there was one sourced out of Round Lake Beach, which was more local, which I think either Mr. Riddle or Ms. Gonzalez was really hoping for with our last round. So it's not just 2 big mega corporations that we're looking at. So that's essentially the focus that we're dealing with.
And
Are you
can I
adding
add
to-
one last thing? Sorry, one last thing. Maybe it's about creating a way for students to also say what they're seeing, because like I had students tell me that they were seeing fungus and like rotten apples and things like, and that wasn't for Sodexo, that was years ago, right? And then at the what's the one fair that they do for the students? The MICFA challenge.
MICFA challenge.
You see the photos, you see what they're talking about. So just collecting that, right? And then having Sodexo actually meet with students every once in a while. I know that I agree with Mr. McBride, it's not going to be perfect. We're a really large district, and our food systems are just out of whack in this country to begin with, but I think it's worth building the relationship and setting expectations instead of going out, but I respect the next board if that's what they want to do.
So I think for me, it's definitely the quality, because it is wasteful. If half of the food is ending up in the trash, we're essentially purchasing trash. So what's the point of paying for this food that's going to end up in the garbage? So quality is a big issue. And if the students can be surveyed, I think that'd be a great idea. My other question is, from my recollection of working in the district years past, we did also have at one time where we had 2 different companies serving our district, one at the elementary level and one at the middle and high school. So I don't know if there's any rule that has changed that says that we have to stick to one major vendor for the entire district, or is it possible to be able to split that contract up to serve our needs?
No, they were the same companies, but one was doing elementary schools. And the other, then there was that, because they had to.
Sorry, Ms. Anna, can you use your mic?
I'm sorry. They were the one in the same company.
So they were
But
sister
one
companies.
was.
They were owned by the same?
Yeah,
like a
they
parent?
they were the same company, but there was an elementary, one served the elementary,
Team.
and then the other was for the high school and I think the middle school. And that was only because, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. LeBaron helped me, because the elementary schools were not equipped
Yeah, they're still not.
to have the service like
They still don't have kitchens.
Yeah.
Kitchens. So
Yeah,
you're correct, Miss Hannah. It was one company at the middle and high schools, and they subcontracted for prepackaged meals at the elementary school.
Thank you. All right, so great discussion. I think it is important, to Mr. McBride's point, and while it is about, I guess I'll say it. While it is about the quality of food, it also is the cost, and it's one of those things is that Waukegan took the effort to have every person in the district get free and reduced lunch. And that comes with certain requirements. It keeps the district's cost level from year to year. It's fixed, you know what it is. We get a lot of that reimbursed, right? Other districts do not have to comply with those same rules. There was a process before in which you paid for your lunch and you had meal cards, and if you needed free or reduced, then you got free or reduced lunch. But that was a significant cost increase. And so, as Ms. Polk always reminds us, there are priorities, and what the board prioritizes as its goals is what we can do. And so again, when I was coming up, and I assume those who graduated before me, we were not on free and reduced as a district, but there were individuals who now you got to track and get that money, and you're saying no to kids, and that was some of the things that were happening. So I do think that we should stick with free or reduced lunch, but there are requirements where, to Mr. McBride's point, part of why you keep recycling the same companies and you get the same quality of food is because these people are cooks, they are chefs, they do know how to make things taste really good, but they have to comply with the rules that are put in place for the program. So it might be. But I do appreciate the commentary. So item 5B is the open gate metal detectors. Mr. Riddle?
Yeah, I have a question or two on the open gate metal detectors. One is, I believe we have some of those now already, and we're using them. I just want to see if, Mr. Wilson, if they are working well. And then my second thing is, I noticed on the information here that we're going to be using those inside and outside. We're going to order 8 more. And I did not see, the company provides a battery or electrical hookup, and I did not see in our purchase any batteries, which would limit our usage outside. So can you tell me why we're not getting units with batteries?
Good evening, board members, superintendent, community. To answer your first question, Mr. Riddle, we will be using some of them outside. We currently have 4 that are using at Weiss Field, but we've been transporting those to Brookside, to the dog pound for basketball games. So what we want to do is keep the ones at Weiss Field stationary, because those things are very delicate and we don't want to carry them back and forth. Also, we intend to expand the use of them at middle schools when we're doing backpack checks, at the high school, trying to get kids back in class when they pull a fire alarm, so we can use the open gate to expedite the kids so they're not losing class time. As far as the batteries, what we figured out was that we could go to Lowe's or Menards and buy the batteries cheaper.
Very good, Mr. Wilson. Thank you, sir.
What I will say, Director Wilson, is, and I don't want to speak for Ms. Gonzalez, but as somebody who's been somewhat opposed to the additional, I don't want to say security, right? It's because I think security is important, but we talked about that experience that our students have of walking through those metal detectors. It's unfortunate that in today's day and age, that's something that you have to contend with, is that a fire alarm is used as a way to get something that shouldn't be back into the buildings. And so I do appreciate the fact that you and your department are taking the safety of our students very important. I know that you did the security assessment, and this is in line with what some of those recommendations and suggestions are. So while I may not like the appearance of our middle schoolers going through metal detectors, you all as a community have seen the number of expulsion amendments and changes that we've made. So I think it is important that we push these resources down, is because unfortunately it's happening younger, and I don't know board member would say we had an opportunity to do this and we chose not to. So
Well,
I'll take this over.
go ahead.
You want me to?
Yeah.
And I respect and appreciate President Ewing's comments on this, because this is what I grapple with all the time. Mr. Moulton and Director Wilson, like you have heard me time and time again and say, like, why do we have to do this? Like, why more metal detectors? Why not, more staff or whatever, more training? And it does harken back to those moments where I hear, maybe it's on the news or maybe I'm hearing it from students like secondhand after the fact, but they don't have positive experiences going through the metal detectors, and it's a moment of antagonism, and it is racialized, and I think that that's something that I know more districts unfortunately are considering it. I mean, Highland Park is considering it given what they've been experiencing, but I think at the end of the day, like, the money could be used elsewhere. So in that sense, like, I am just gonna vote my conscience. But I understand that, you know, these are serious conversations and maybe there are other solutions, but I will always, you know, I believe that the people should be out there if there's a situation going on. And also just logistically, once you're in a crowd, you're in a crowd, and you're gonna get whatever it is that you're gonna get in there. And that's just me being a realist, and I don't want to think that way. But I think that there are certain things that need to happen before they step through the doors or step outside and go through the metal detectors. That would be better safeguards for us. But, you know, that's just my opinion. You know, and I have, you know, conceded with the, like, vestibules and things like that. And I agree, like, you know, the doors locking and having, you know, people step inside a little lobby before they enter the school. Like, I've grown to accept that. But with something like this, especially for things that are supposed to, like, bring school spirit and community unity and all this stuff, like, I don't know. I just don't feel like I can vote for that, you know?
Yeah, and that's, well, I won't take away, because Ms. Gonzalez made her point, and in many ways I agree with it. But what I will say is, it's understanding that while your part in what we're being asked to vote on is a very specific thing around safety, I think what Ms. Gonzalez has been advocating for a number of years, along with others here, is that when we view safety, it can't just be cameras and security and more
Equipment.
metal detectors, but it has to actually change the hearts, the minds, right, the longer game, so that
Provide the
our
resources.
students don't feel that they need to bring a weapon to school for their protection or to harm another human being. So I will say is that part is, I don't want it to be missed. Mr. Riddle, I saw your hand.
Only that I just wanted to clarify with Director Wilson here. These open gate are not, they don't look like the normal metal detector. They're just sitting there as poles and you posts and you walk by them. So I don't think they're
Yes.
quite as intimidating to our students.
Yes.
Is that not correct? And
That's-
have you still found those devices to work?
Yes, yes.
Okay, that's important too.
We've
I
got
think you could-
positive feedback from the community at the games, because they
Right.
just walk through. We don't have to stop them and wand them.
Right, you don't have to wand them, so it's not quite as intimidating as going through that
Yeah.
circular metal detector.
And if you've been to any professional
Yes.
sports, you've
Yes,
gone
you
through
walk
these.
by those things, and you almost cannot even notice them if you're just chatting with somebody, right?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Miss Caroline.
You know, Darryl, I think sometime to actually get your point across, there's incidents that done happened already that you missed, that you could have caught. Several. Matter of fact, I know we've had them our own self in our executive sessions when we was holding kids accountable. And I would think that instead of doing a lot of modification and whatnot that we have been doing, they made the administrative, I mean, it could have caught it on the tail end if that piece that you're talking about would have been there. And I do understand the idea that our kids are elementary kids and we don't want to expose them to what we so-called things that they should not see, but they see a lot and hear a lot. And they are growner than we think they are sometimes. And so sometimes we got to come down to where they're at and help them out. And what you're trying to do basically is you're helping the other students out as well as you helping the kid out that knows that he's got no business coming through those detectors with anything. And they're smart, trust me. They're smarter than we think they are. Even when you putting those up there, they still got ways of getting around that. I see it every day, man. And but anyway, I'm just saying that maybe next time, bring some experiences. You know, paint some pictures, because I see the pictures all the time, because we get them all the time in our executive sessions. When things that I see that come through there that they shouldn't have, that could have got caught before they even made it through those detectors.
Ms. Fabian, Ms. Lindsay, and then Ms. Hannah, and then
So I completely understand your concern, Adriana, and I understand the sentiments of walking through and how that could feel for a student. However, as Darryl has stated, we've all gone through them in different capacities. Even at work, we have, we're in a government building, and unfortunately we do live in a time where we do have to be concerned about safety. And so even in our building, we have the metal detectors and the airport kiosk thing, and we have to turn in our ID. Nobody can come in or out of that building without passing through state police. But I think it's both, right? It's also training who's manning those stations, because I will say, we have like officer friendlies at that door. So people, most of the time I haven't seen anybody really get like offended or get irate going through, because it's the people that are conducting the searches or passing people through that are smiling and waving and reassuring it's for their safety and not to criminalize them, right?
Right.
So I think that's the other piece, is how are our students being waved in and waved through the machines, and how are they being asked to put their backpacks through the machines? It's all about that climate, right?
Yes.
Apart from the climate of, I shouldn't want to bring these things in because I should feel safe, but also I want to comply because they're making me feel safe and they're making me feel encouraged. So I think it's a both, right? Like, I want our students to be safe. It's the reality of the times that we live in that we need to be as proactive as possible, but what are we doing to train our staff to make sure that that experience, although it can be, you know, a bad experience, how can we make it a little bit more comfortable so that it doesn't feel like we're being criminalized? Like you said, when you go to the stadiums, you're just being walked through. You don't even notice because they're just waving you in and they're smiling, right? And it just feels inviting, like you're just being welcomed in. So how do we recreate some of that in our schools?
Yeah, and we're working on training. We have sensitivity training with our staff. One of the things we teach in CPI is how you say what you say. My staff is the first person in the morning that our students see. We do not want to be a precipitating factor for their next teacher or for the rest of the 3 periods. So I've been placing an emphasis on training and saying good morning, how are you, welcoming the kids, making it feel like it's a welcoming environment. Because as you say, we don't want to do this, but unfortunately, this is where the times we live in. And I believe that it's necessary. And we have to find a balance. And I'm trying to figure out that balance between safety and no one on my staff wants to criminalize any student. Any student. Most of my staff live in the community. We grew up in the community.
Go ahead, Ms. Evans.
Okay, I take a little bit exception to something that was said earlier in reference to the modifications of the expulsions, and because we don't want the public to get the wrong idea
Right.
about that we have confiscated big weapons and all of that stuff, and to be actually factual about it. The things that we have had with expulsions, they actually were elementary kids bringing something that was not acceptable, that's on the list, okay, but it wasn't like somebody brought in AR-13 and was getting ready to shoot up something. We have been a blessed school district where we have not had any of that catastrophe here. And so the effort of prevention is wonderful. And I also want to say, congratulations to our students, okay, because it's like, they're not up for that stuff. No. And I mean, we hear more things about those influential school districts here lately than we hear about little old Waukegan, Just the other day, Gray's Lake, as a matter of fact, yesterday. You know, all this stuff, but we are fortunate. And whatever people say about Waukegan and our kids can be applauded
Yes, ma'am.
because they don't go for that stuff.
Ms. Lindsay?
My comment's a fast one. It was to also clarify, when the board is doing these modified expulsions, a big factor of it is intent, right? The intent of the student. As a board, we are not giving suspensions in lieu of expulsions for those intending to harm other people. So I like that you highlighted, Board President, that it is unfortunate that you can pull a fire alarm in an effort to bring something in that under normal procedures we have in place, you can't, but because there is that moment of chaos, not true chaos, it's organized chaos,
Organized.
right? I want to clarify, it's organized, but let's, you know, for those things to happen. So I just wanted to be clear with the community that that is always considered by the board when we do those modifications.
Thank you. All right, item C, attendance at the IAAP Summit, July 18th, 2025.
I have one fast question on this one.
Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
So from my understanding, it's professional development for one of our executive assistants within the district, which the only clarification I have is with some of the topics, what training do we have in-house that we aren't providing that they need to go outside of our development within the district to be a good executive assistant for the admin that they're supporting.
So, just to make sure I'm clear on the question,
Yeah.
the ask was what training are we not providing?
Right. So I guess maybe it's a better way to say, what are we doing? Like, do we have very structured training for someone taking on an executive assistant role? And what gaps are there that they're going to this conference to fulfill?
Okay, so I'll try to answer that question as best I can. So right now, our office worker training is more so specific to some of the programs that we provide here. Now, we do have trainings as it relates to the de-escalation, greeting individuals, things like that, as Mr. Wilson mentioned. But there's also specific trainings available for the programs that we use on a daily basis, data entry, some of the forms and documents and things like that. In this, we're more so talking about executive presence for these individuals, and there is a certification program that also goes along with this for these administrative professionals to help support them in their role to executive support versus some other different levels of support that we might have in the district. That is why we provided the information here, because that support and structure, and we also have one on the student achievement agenda as well for an executive team assistant. That's what we're trying to build here through this program when we've had individuals go through this in the past as well.
So can you give an example of the difference between the two groups when we're talking about the assistants? Like, what qualifies as executive team support versus regular admin support?
So one difference could be access to confidential information, document sharing, record keeping that might be at a different, done differently than standard records, as well as note taking and support for follow-up actions for that particular executive to execute. And I don't know if that was very clear, but there is a distinction in processing of information, listening for certain things, and helping inform recommendations to the executive, as opposed to processing information as a matter of record, just as a procedural aspect.
So maybe to clarify a little, how many executive team assistants are there? And I think that'll help tell you the narrow scope of the work.
We currently have 5, I believe.
So that's fair, right?
It's either 4 or 5.
Right. So it's a very narrow that position, I guess, that has a lot of narrow scope.
We've had executive level assistants before, and although the work over the years has become a little bit more complex in terms of paperwork, regulations, you gotta meet deadlines, all of that, right? But I am going to go back to what I said at the last board meeting in reference to the conferences, the travel, and the different PD that we are giving the options to our staff, that in light of what's going on at the federal level, and we don't know what's going to happen. A bug. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I got it.
June bug?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You forgot it was winter.
But in light, we have a,
Go ahead, Ms. Allen. Finish.
we've got a February 28th deadline that we've got a lot of work to do in this district. And February 28th is right around the corner. And I say that at this point, we need all hands on deck, because we have got to get things that are in the nooks and the crannies that they're talking about pulling apart in our district. And so I'm going to say that we need to just, and I said it, I'll continue to say it, we need to suspend the traveling, the conferences, and all of that until we can find out what is happening. And we just need to, we need to focus on here. We really, really do. So.
Go ahead, Ms. Fabian.
I would agree, but in this case, $3,000 isn't gonna make or
Not a
break
lot.
us.
Right.
So not sending her out to save 3,000 is to me not ideal. What will make or break us is if we have an actual executive team member that can function or not, right? Because they are such an important role, I would rather have a professional there that is answering calls and understanding how to navigate the process and take the notes and do all of the things that they need to do to keep our executives functioning. So in this matter, I mean, I support professional development, especially when you don't have that many people within the district that can support that role.
Right, and I agree with you, Ms. Fabian, that there's things that our executive assistants need to become learned in, right? But what I am saying, that we just need to do an overall suspension on all of it until we figure out what is going on, what we're gonna have to end up doing. You know, they may say, look, and I mean, I know this may be extreme, but the people we're dealing with on the Fed level are extreme, okay? And so they may say, oh, well, why'd you send her? What, because Yeah, you know, that you're just giving this to her. How come you didn't give it to somebody else? More people didn't get it. You know, all kinds of craziness. And see, I am in the, I believe in proactive work instead of being reactionary.
Yeah, I agree in being proactive, but I think being proactive for us is making sure that the items and the things that we want to do are budgeted, and we can always adjust. I agree in that, not just with executive assistants, but I support upskilling any of the individuals that work within our district. This is a conference that's in state, is to support, I just looked up some of the topics and things. So I don't disagree with Ms. Hannah that yes, you want to look at spending and moving forward, and we don't know what the administration is going to do. But I do think that we have parameters in place in order to be able to be responsive. And I don't think that as a district, especially right now, that we should operate in fear either. I think a lot of times as people are changing things and moving away from things and deciding things, and he puts a lot of executive orders out, and then the next day they go, "This is constitutionally illegal."
Yeah,
right.
exactly.
So let's
It's
take a breath.
chaos maneuver.
Let's make sure and be aware, to Ms. Hannah's point, because we shouldn't be caught. We should be hyper aware of what's going on so that we can react responsively. But I don't think that we should, as a district, live in fear. I do think that as we start the budget process, examining travel for next year is important. What are the things that we have to do that we can't find in state? What are the things that we can find in state? What are the things that we can go without? I liked, I forgot where I was or what I was watching, but they rotated the executives who went. So basically, they would do like a conference, and maybe it is the superintendent conference as an example or something like that. But all administration didn't go.
Right.
They kind of went into a 3-year cycle, right? One person went this year, one person went the next year, and they would rotate out through the leadership. So they were still getting it, but it wasn't an annual thing that they had to do. So just as ideas, we don't have to forego everything all the time, but just look at where we can cut back a little bit, because I do think it's important for us to be able to manage within our means. So thank you for that. I will support it. I don't know, obviously it's discussion and it's coming forward as a recommendation, but I think it's good. Item 5D, Academy for Urban School Leadership Agreement. Teacher Residency Program. Go ahead,
yeah.
Ms. Lindsay.
So I just want to make sure I understand this, right? So AUSL is the teacher residency program. They are getting development by shadowing our teachers, but we have to pay them for that opportunity to do so. Help me understand that.
Should teach you basically, right?
Right, yeah. So help me understand that,
Sure. because
I'm having a hard time shoring that all up.
Sure. So I'm going to ask a couple
And there's
individuals.
no guaranteed employment, sorry.
I'm going to ask a couple individuals to come. We do have highlighted a proposal that's been worked on with the legal department as well as AUSL. But I'm going to ask Mr. Adam Case, who's with AUSL, as well as Dr. Andrews, who has direct experience with this group, to speak on this.
Thank you.
Dr. Andrews and Mr. Case, also AUSL has been around for quite some time, so if you want to explain the nuance of the beginning of it and the philosophy behind it and how it's grown, and maybe some partnering districts. I know you're working
Sure.
with Dr. Price in North Chicago and how that's building up their pipeline for local talent. So I'll turn it over to you.
Perfect, thank you. Hi, Adam Case, I'm the Executive Director of AUSL. Thank you for having us here. So AUSL is a nonprofit organization. It's one of the oldest teacher residency programs in the country. Teacher residency programs are based on medical residency models where a teacher resident spends a year learning with a mentor teacher in the classroom. They also get their master's degree from DePaul during that time, and they commit to working with the school district for 4 years after that. So AUSL has been training teachers for about 20 years. We have 1,400 teacher graduates. Our retention, as you saw in the PowerPoint, is very strong. About 90% of our teachers are still with the district after 4 years. The average across the country is about 50%. So we've been training teachers for about 20 years, and we are launching a new teacher residency in Lake County. We received a grant that's helping us do that work. We're partnering with the Lake County Regional Office of Education. We're partnering with North Chicago, with Round Lake, and we're very excited about this potential partnership as well.
Why do we have to pay somebody?
The cost goes, it's a stipend that goes to the resident.
How come y'all don't pay?
Well, we can't afford to pay the whole cost of the stipend. We're a not-for-profit.
Sorry, I did want to clarify because you said that so I looked at the PowerPoint and the intent is for them to then be teachers or
Correct.
professionals within our district. But in the MOU, it says no employment relationship. So there's no guarantee of future employment with a USL or district. So that's where it's not
Okay.
lining up for me.
During the time that they're a resident, they're not your employee or our employee.
Okay.
They are making a commitment to work in the district for 4 years if you decide to hire them.
And I think that would, sorry, but from a board's perspective, I would agree and support that you don't want a perceived guarantee of employment. So if someone goes through the program, but through the program you determine that
It's
they
not a
weren't a
good
good
fit.
fit,
Yeah.
then it would be okay. And for me, because we've talked about this, and I want to make sure, did you get your questions answered before I give an
Well,
opinion?
my pushback to that, board president, is the PowerPoint is saying this is the intent, right? So I get that, but it's not lining up. Like what you are saying is, hey, we're going to have this residency program, and then
Sure.
they're going to be with you for the next 4 years. But then in an agreement, which I agree, if it's not a good fit, it's not a good fit. So it's like you're saying one thing and then you're not, and then you're contradicting yourself over here. So that's where
Sure.
I have a very hard time.
And we can clarify the MOU, but the paragraph that you're talking about is during the residency year, that there's not an employment, they're not your employee during the residency year. They're not our employee during the residency year either. It does say in the MOU that they are committing to work in the district for 4 years,
So then they would be our employee for 4 years,
if you decide to hire them.
if we decide.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead, board president.
Yeah. So for me, the idea of paying the stipend, just personally, I 100% support. I think we've talked about this. It's been a frustration of mine that we, have struggled to attract even student teachers, and that most of the time, and again, I'm biased from personal experience, my wife had to stop working for over a year in order to go into the classroom after having already been an early childhood educator for almost a decade. And so because she had a husband who could afford, who made it work, right? I wouldn't say who could afford it, but who made it work. It allowed people to take those chances. I have so many people who do want these opportunities, but we even have parents who are like, I can't leave parenting because I can't give up the income, but I can't be a parent while I finish this last semester. And so the stipend amount that's listed there, which will allow an individual, and if we think they're a good fit and they're going to stay with 4 years, I think it's money well spent. So when I looked at it, I was actually happy to see it, and obviously they're in Round Lake, they're in North Chicago, districts that have similar situated students to ours, and I'm hoping that we can establish, DePaul is not a cheap school to go to, right? So even with that, I just hope that it would lead to us being able to create that pipeline, and if our skin in the game is that we're compensating these individual residents for a year with a stipend, I'm not opposed to that.
And our goal, I will say, Roe did reach out. This is something that they look for us to partner with them and surrounding districts. I do want Dr. Andrews to speak to AUSL because you have very direct experience on that pipeline, and so do I, coming from my previous district. And so I'm going to turn it over to you.
Good evening, board, superintendent, colleagues.
So as a previous principal for the last 8 years, I led a school that was extremely hard to staff, primarily because it was, teacher shortage, and the specialty content areas that we needed, we just couldn't recruit the teachers that we needed. So we started to think about, how do I start growing my own? And partnering with AUSL and their teacher residency program has really been able to bring back some high quality long-term subs that are ready to be classroom teachers. That has helped me put really great teachers in front of my students. And so what that looks like is I recommend any long-term sub through to the AUSL program. They go through and they get one-on-one coaching from a high-performing teacher at my current school. They engage in a lot of learning. They go through DePaul University. They do get the $20,000 where they can use that money how they see fit. And I'm going back to Board President's comment to be able to substantiate some of their expenses that they may need, so they can use it in that way. They get partnered again with a teacher that is high performing. They go through, they teach Monday through Thursday. They go through and get to DePaul on Fridays. And so it is an amazing program. They learn signature strategies. They learn how to really differentiate instruction, high level of planning. And so AUSL has just been around for a long time, and they have produced a lot of teacher residencies, residents. And so I have had 5 people go through the program, and they've all come back to the school that I previously led. And so that is an expectation that they do stay with the district for 4 years after they complete the program.
And with that too, can you speak to the fact that internally it's an opportunity for our staff, right? Is
Correct.
for those mentor teachers to be able to build those muscles if they want to be future building leaders, if they want to share the knowledge, and then obviously they're compensated as well if they sign up to be a mentor teacher. Is that accurate, Superintendent?
Yeah, 3,000 to 5,000
Yes.
is a stipend, so it's
Yeah.
not
Yes.
just 20, it's the mentor on top of that.
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
I'm going to go to Ms. Fabian, Mr. Riddle, and then I see you, Ms. Briscoe.
And can I just add this, and it also helps build our diversity within our portfolio also, and growing our own. Yep. And all of the teachers were teachers of color, so that's definitely a benefit.
I do want to expand on that, growing your own. I am also very biased, as President Ewan said. I myself had to give up working in the district because I was a para at the time and I was pregnant, and I had to stop working. I made a personal deal, and I've shared this before with our HR, to continue to pay my insurance, and I would come back and work for 3 years. Obviously, the joke was on me, but they got way more than that. But it is a hardship for our own parapros that want to go up into that pipeline of teaching. And while I think this is a great program, and the fact that we're willing to spend $20,000 on this program, I'm not understanding how, this is not the first time I've said it, why we haven't tried to find a way to pay for our paras who go back, or student teachers who want to come here, to also compensate them in some manner. And they're not there for the whole year, right? They're only there for, depending on their program, 6 weeks to 12 weeks. So it'd be significantly less than $20,000. And to me, if I was a para at home watching this and seeing, like, you're willing to pay this outside person $20,000 to come in and then dedicate 3 years, I'm willing to do that as well. Why isn't there like that pipeline for me? So that's what I want to make sure, that it is also to grow our own, that we are pulling from our own ranks within here internally. Because to Brandon's point, not everybody has that, financial stability to be able to stop to do their student teaching.
Yeah, there are so many people who want to be teachers, and as we talked about this challenge of getting into the profession because of the financial cost, and this is what AUSL does, providing that bridge. Paraprofessionals can definitely participate in the program, and what we've done in other places, or what we're planning, is to send a survey to your paraprofessionals if they meet the qualifications and then they want to participate and the district wants them to. We're happy to do that, and then also to recruit externally as well. It's a great source of talent, and they know the kids and they're passionate about working in the community. It's a real win-win.
They can apply though, right? If they wanted to apply through AUSL, they can
Yeah,
apply.
absolutely.
But
And
would
I
they
don't
have
think
to
it's
give up?
either or. I think it's both,
Both.
and there is something, as you know, we have the teacher vacancy grant where we are now paying for paras to go back and assisting them to finish their degrees. So this is just another opportunity to leverage grant monies out there so that we are feeding our pipeline of educators in Waukegan.
Ms. Lindsay?
Oh, I believe Ms. Briscoe was going to go, but I'll go
Okay,
after Ms.
I'm
Briscoe.
sorry, Ms. Briscoe.
I just had a quick question. She might have answered it already. What was the percentage of African Americans in the program? I think I missed it when you said it.
Oh. So there were 4 blacks and 1 Hispanic young lady.
Okay, thank you.
But that was at your school. I don't know. Are you asking Ms. Briscoe generally how many, like, what are the demographics of AUSL?
Yes, in general, but I thought she was speaking of actively of what they have, but that's a great point. If you could go back and comment on that too. Thank you.
Sure. Our residents are about 70% teachers of color, largest subgroup African American, Hispanic, Asian.
And I can state that that is one of the reasons why we decided that we wanted to work with AUSLs, because we've seen their base and the platform of where they're directing their energy, and we know that we're trying to recruit a more diverse staff.
Ms. Lindsay? And then I see you, Mr. Riddle. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so 2 things. To confirm, Superintendent, because that was one of my questions, we are able to use the teacher vacancy grant for this program?
I cannot, so I don't want to say yes right now. I don't believe so. Amanda, you may want to come speak, because there's very specific things written in how we are going to use our teacher vacancy grant. And my understanding is we are not using it for AUSL. Am I correct? I may be wrong, but I just want to make sure.
Good evening. We have not utilized the teacher vacancy grant to date for this particular partnership, so we would need to explore allowable use of funds to potentially partner with AUSL through that specific grant opportunity. We do partner with Bloom Board, who has been able to help us have this year 11 paraprofessionals going back to school to become to become teachers, and through those programs they are alternate licensure programs, and they do not need to take time off to become student teachers for a semester or a period of time, which impacts their salary and things like that. Obviously, we could look at different funding sources and think through ways we can partner with our current grant through ISB to find out if AUSL would be an allowable expense. We haven't done that yet, but we could look into it.
And I want to be very clear, because I'm being very cautious with words. I told the board president, we are not looking to use our teacher vacancy grant at this time. So the answer is no, we're not going to use that grant to pay for USL, and that is what it's coming to the board. However, as we move forward, we will see, does that fit in the grant parameters, but we have a plan on how we're using that grant right now.
Yeah, I think you were just saying that paras right now in that teacher grant, they already have a plan. So this is in addition to those efforts that are already going on. Ms. Lindsay?
I just want to make sure we're really clear on that. And then in the MOU, we also have videotaping in the classroom. I'm a parent. I don't want my kid photographed. I don't want them posted on the district website for anything. I understand that they're not going to be with the videotaping up on social media, but how are you going to handle it if there are kids in the class where the parents don't want their kids videotaped for any reason?
We would work with the district if there are people that are, if there are children who are excluded from videotaping, we would work to exclude them from the videotaping in the class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ms. Hannah?
Okay,
I'm sorry, Ms. Hannah. Mr. Riddle's been
I'm
waiting.
sorry.
Mr. Riddle, go ahead.
Okay, I just have one question, and that is, how do you recruit your teachers? And then when you answer that, then I'll just make a comment.
Yeah, sure. So, from our longstanding teacher residency, over half of our residents come from referrals, which I think, speaks to the quality of the program that principals and teachers are saying to their relatives and loved ones, come to this program. And we will work to do that same sort of referral program here and with our new partner districts, spreading the word to district staff about the new program. We also use digital advertising quite effectively, and then also out-of-home advertising, like with PACE or with Metra, to get the word out. We'll try to generate press coverage about this new partnership, because for a lot of people, it's just knowing that something like this exists. They've always wanted to be a teacher, to work in their community, and this provides the opportunity for them to do that.
Right. And then as far as evaluating those applicants, you do a good job of evaluating. You have some criteria that you're using.
Yeah, they go through our criteria, and then they have to also be eligible to go to DePaul and into the Graduate School of Education.
Okay.
And we'll work with the district on criteria that you have or want to use, and can engage the district on that too.
Okay, thank you. And I just wanted, my comment is I'm just really tickled that we are partnering with you on this. I am excited about the idea that we are going to be recruiting some passionate, high-quality teachers, and that the teachers are going to be supported. And I feel that's, having been a teacher myself for a few years, I had very little support as a new teacher, was passionate about teaching, but there wasn't the support there. And I believe that we just don't do a good job of supporting our teachers. It is a very, very important, it is one of the most important professions in the world, and yet we take a great responsibility with young doctors, working with them. I worked in a hospital for a number of years and saw the support that those interns get, but I'm just pleased that you're doing something like this and that you've been around, and we're able to partner with you now. We're going to be able to develop some high-quality teachers, and I think some of them will want to stay with us, whether they stay with us or go somewhere else. At least they are getting that support that so many young teachers who are passionate but don't have any support will miss. And so I'm just so pleased that we're partnering with you, and I certainly support what we're doing, because I think this is, and it's going to do something good for our whole organization, for our school district, our teachers that are really great teachers, and we have great teachers in our district. My children had some wonderful teachers. They were some of the best teachers in the world. They influenced my children tremendously, and those teachers are going to be recognized and have an opportunity to share some of their passion and their skills with young teachers who may have a 20, 30-year career. So I thank you so much for being, and I'm just so happy that our district has partnered with you. So again, thank you. I hope we continue this partnership for many, many years, and we'll develop some really wonderful teachers. Thank you.
Thanks.
Question, has this been budgeted already, or is this something new into our budget?
So thank you for the question, Ms. Hannah. So as we look in preparation for next school year, if this is supported, this is something that we would be requesting as part of the budget process to start in July.
So that's when the program is going to start, in July?
Yes.
Yeah, we'll be recruiting the residents now. It takes months to recruit them, so we'll be paying for that, and then the residents start their graduate school in July.
Okay, so we are pre-voting for this.
No, sorry, can I clarify? Because in the language, it started January this year for your recruitment. So it sounds like you've already been doing work, even though we haven't approved it yet. So they have the 6 months to recruit candidates to come here.
He's saying no.
We haven't done any work specific for.
Okay, because that's not.
They're waiting for Tuesday's vote. After Tuesday's vote, if it is approved, then they will start boots on the ground and start to recruit.
But to Ms. Hannah's point is, if we vote on it now, we're voting to pay that money for next budgeted school year.
Yes, yes, it would not, yes, absolutely.
Sorry, Ms. Polk, it becomes a priority. Is that what, if the board votes on it, then it gets put in there and we go through the priorities until we run out of money.
So is that okay?
Makes it look easy. She's like,
Well-
Okay, I don't know, but anyway, you know, we're batting around this word about all these grants and stuff. As of yesterday, there was $330 million in education grants and something else that was cut. And so, yeah, look, I'm not, Mr. President, I'm not living in fear. Okay, things are just so uncertain and unstable, and we just need to be very, very conscious of that. You know, and
You're absolutely right, Ms. Hannah. However, we're going to have students and we're going to have vacancies, and our goal. What I'm not saying is we're trying. I hope you're hearing what I'm saying. We're building a diverse population in our teaching field, and so I may have used different words previously, but with new orders, with what we're up against right now, you're hearing the population of teachers that they recruit. They recruit teachers of color to come into districts to work with students of color so that they can see role models before them, and that is our goal. As the superintendent, I'm telling you that this is one of our priorities, and we're trying to build that pipeline of teachers that our students can, of course they see all of our teachers as role models, but we're trying to build a diverse platform of staff here in Waukegan Public Schools in a variety of ways so that we don't have the vacancies, and I'll leave it there.
Ms. Fabian.
I think you said the word correctly. It's a priority, right? Like, we're always going to need teachers. So regardless of what happens with funding, we're always going to have children to educate. So this is a high priority regardless if we get the teacher vacancy grant again or not. We need to figure out a pipeline on how we're going to recruit teachers, not just teachers of color, but also teachers that are in those hard to reach fields, special ed, bilingual, our honors classes, science, all of that. So I think, again, this is one of those things where it is a priority regardless of what funding is coming in or not. We're going to have to find these teachers.
Yeah.
Is this the best program to do it?
That's the question.
Yeah.
Right.
Is this the best way to do it, the best use of funds, and able to fill that pipeline?
So my word tonight is investment. Everything that's required is an investment, and it's a choice. So we can choose not to support this initiative, and I'm not saying that's where the board is leaning, but then the debate is going to be, do we continue to recruit in the Philippines and Spain, right? And then the question becomes, what are the pathways that we're using? And so one of the things that has frustrated me as a board member is that there are these programs over 20 years old that exist that we've been looking for and researching and trying to figure out how, as someone who still supports international teacher recruitment, the only way we stop being as dependent on international teacher recruitment as we currently are is to build our own pipeline. And so I think that we should do both. Is we should continue to recruit internationally and we should also continue to support initiatives like this, initiatives like Grow Your Own, using the teacher vacancy grant in order to make sure that those that are already in Waukegan and committed to Waukegan are having those opportunities. So I think it's all of the commentary is really important. It's making sure that we're vetting our partners. But I have, heard great things about the program. And I'm excited for this to be one of the ways in which we are looking to attack the teacher vacancy shortage. So with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Riddle, second by Ms. Gonzalez. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned. If we can take a 5-minute break and meet back at 8 p.m. I'd like to call to order the February 18th, 2025 Student Achievement Meeting. If I can have a roll call, please.
Mr. McBride?
Yes.
Mr. Riddle?
Present.
Ms. Hannah?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Gonzalez?
Yes.
Ms. Fabian?
Present.
Ms. Lensing?
Present.
President Ewing?
Here. We do have a quorum. All board members are present. With that, we pretty much have some information items, but we do have individuals that are here from Oakdale, so
Okay.
I'm going to move them up. Item 5C, the Oakdale Amazing Shake.
All right. There you guys.
Just in case they have questions, okay. Do we have a presentation? They have, there's no presentation. I'll just answer any questions on my end. If you don't mind, I'll start. Yeah, go ahead. Good evening, Board of Education, Superintendent, community. I'm here to represent Oakdale on behalf of the student leaders in the Amazing Shake opportunity that's coming up in Atlanta, Georgia in just a couple of months from now.
All right.
Just answer any questions, comments, or concerns you may have about the upcoming leadership opportunity.
Dr. Mione, do they have a presentation? Because I know we have the president and vice president. So will the board indulge them and let them give their presentation? Okay.
Thank you so much. Good evening. My name is Daisy Moreno, and I co-sponsor the Ambassador Club with our principal, Ms. Quinones Nelson. She has been an advocate for the Ambassador Club for many years and apologizes for not being able to be here due to an early conference that is scheduled tomorrow. I'm here to talk about a great opportunity for our Ambassador Club to attend the Amazing Shape competition. This is a national event that challenges students in professional etiquette, public speaking, and leadership. It's the perfect fit for our club as we work to develop well-rounded leaders who are prepared to represent our school and unique diversity of our community. This trip will give students the chance to push themselves outside their comfort zones and grow in ways that will help them succeed in life. Through this experience, students will enhance their communication and interpersonal skills. They'll learn how to handle challenges with poise and professionalism, and most importantly, they'll gain the confidence needed to succeed in both their academic and future careers. This event also focuses on developing key qualities like leadership, collaboration, and adaptability, which will prepare them for whatever comes next in their lives. The estimated cost for the trip is $12,000. The expense per person is $1,700, which covers flight, hotel, conference registration, and meals. And if I do say so myself, it is a good deal. If I haven't convinced you yet, I would like to introduce our school ambassadors, starting with the school president.
All right. Yay.
Good evening, board members. My name is Jesus Mora, and I'm the president of the ambassadors. In preparation for this trip, us ambassadors have went to every single one of our meetings with dedication and commitment. We ambassadors help in our school with different things, and we are going to be talking about them. I'm going to be talking about community meeting. Community meeting is CLI, which we teach social skills. Those social skills will help them respect peers and teachers, and it would help them in the real world.
Yay.
Hello, my name is J-Marie Massey, and I'm going to be talking about our preparation in Ambassadors Club. Our preparation is practicing on public speaking, which is what I'm doing right now, mock interviews, and introducing ourselves. This can give us a boost in our future. Go Wildcats!
All right.
Hello, my name is Kevin Mendes, and I'm Ambassador at Oakdale. This afternoon, I'm going to be talking about why is tutoring important for us. One of our important jobs is tutoring students from grades K to 2, which is kinder to second grade. We as ambassadors are providing tutoring for younger students. We know the importance of good grades. The tutoring is math and reading for Spanish and English. Hola, mi nombre es Kevin Méndez y soy un embajador en la Oakdale. Hoy les voy a estar hablando sobre la importancia de la tutoría. Uno de nuestros trabajos importantes es ayudar a estudiantes de kinder a segundo grado. Nosotros como embajadores brindamos ayuda a los estudiantes más jóvenes. Nosotros sabemos la importancia sobre las buenas notas. Nosotros como embajadores estamos enseñándoles a los estudiantes de kinder a segundo grado matemáticas y lectura en español y en inglés.
Hi, my name is Sassi Guerrero, and I'm ambassador at Oakdale Elementary. And I believe that we ambassadors have good leadership and good skills. I also believe that we deserve to go on this nationwide event called the Amazing Shake. The Amazing Shake event will help us prepare for the real world. And it would mean a lot to us if you would accept our proposal of going to the Amazing Shake. Thank you for listening.
As Astrid just mentioned, we will be very grateful if you guys vote on us to be able to go. We want to show what we can bring to the table and how strong we are. And we want to put Waukegan on the map.
All right.
Any questions I can answer on behalf of our ambassadors?
Go ahead.
So when you need the money?
Next week.
Tomorrow?
That's right. This
Yeah.
evening. In the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Ms. Lindsay and then Ms. Briscoe.
So, Jesus, you did a fabulous job. Well done, sir. Very excited to hear you talk. Miss Massey, I feel like I saw you last year at the Amazing Shake. Yeah, so your year's been going good? I love it. Caleb, I love that you did it in English and Spanish with such confidence. Really great job.
Absolutely.
And then I couldn't hear your name clearly, so I'm very sorry. But I think you also did a great job. I don't think you're going to have an issue getting to go to the trip, but I just want to congratulate you for a great presentation. Your confidence really stood out.
Absolutely.
Very
I
good.
love the leadership.
Ms. Briscoe and then Mr. Riddle, and then I heard you, Mr. McBride.
Absolutely.
This program is an awesome, awesome program. I was just there like 2 weeks ago with them. Hi, everybody. And I saw what they did as far as putting on a presentation. This president, he's one of the best I've seen. Oh my God.
Yes.
So at this board, from the community standpoint, we say that we are for our kids. I will vouch for these kids. They are doing an awesome, awesome job. So congratulations to you. I'm still going to be there to support you, and I'll be back with Riddle and Oakdale to lead you to the next level. Thank you.
And we don't need that much convincing.
Mr. Riddle.
Okay.
Just want to say congratulations again. I just think that you kids are going to be terrific leaders in our school. I'm
Absolutely.
excited about your trip, and as you said, putting Waukegan on the map, meeting other kids that are doing great things in their schools, and I want you to come back excited and make big changes in Waukegan schools and continue to do so. And thank you so much. I support what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Mr. McBride.
I just wanted to let you know you are, before you even go anywhere, just starting here, you are a great example to our kids that we have here in Waukegan. And you already, as far as I'm concerned, put the board on the map tonight, because we always hear things that, you're not doing, but tonight we can see what you're doing.
Right.
Keep up the good work, and you're, like, as I was saying before, your peers and the kids around you in the classrooms, they watch everything you do, so keep doing what you're doing. You're great examples. Thank you.
Ms. Fabian.
You guys really make me miss my Oakdale classroom. Now, these are the times that I'm like, man, I could go back into teaching. You guys did a really great job, and I'm so proud of all of you for coming up here. And it looks like you've learned a lot because you are great public speakers.
Absolutely.
The next part is for the adults, though, just to clarify on the paperwork. I did get an answer, but just a reminder, on one of the paperwork, it looks like the fees for the student registration was not going to be paid for by the district because it said student fees, and then paid for by the district zero. So I just want to make sure that we clarify that and put that into the paperwork so that it's correct.
Yes, the principal said that there was money set aside in the budget last year towards field trips, so that will be paid for out of district funds, not from student fee money. But students will not have any cost incurred to them.
Good.
Perfect. We're all for it. Thank you.
And a little birdie told me that somebody wants to be the future Waukegan Public Schools superintendent. Who's that? No?
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 It's
Say-
okay.
They say no, it's okay.
Look, you have to
Jay Marie.
You speak into existence.
Exactly.
Jay Marie, did you change your mind?
Being the superintendent.
Didn't you tell me you were going to take my job and be the school superintendent?
Do it, girl.
Go, girl.
Get
Yes.
it. You could do it.
All right.
But thank you,
love
and,
it.
and I know the board has already said it, and I don't want to be long-winded, but I will say as someone who works in corporate America is that we need to do a better job as the current adults, making sure that we give our students the soft skills that they need in order to be successful, how to present, how to do public speaking, how to look someone in their eyes when they're talking to you. And this is not something that they're doing for show. Anytime you come into Oakdale, they greet you, they walk you through their schools, they walk the younger kids down to the library, and the teachers don't have to say anything. They're the ones that are correcting them. They run, I would say no shade to Cook, but they run that parent drop off even better than
That's a difficult job as it is.
And so the kids are out there, safety officers, and doing all those different jobs and responsibilities. But what it shows us is that our kids are ready, and they just need, some support, some love, and some encouragement. So I will gladly support this initiative, and I hope you guys have fun in Atlanta and learn a lot that you can bring back. So thank you all for coming out this evening.
And and ambassadors, just know that we are very, very, very proud of each and every one of you. And the more ambassadors that you all can produce, okay, that would be wonderful. So keep doing what you do. Good job.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you all.
Now go to bed.
All right, most of these items are renewals. Most of these items, I know we did get questions that were sent earlier. So if you do want to ask that question for the good of the community, if you feel like it warrants deeper discussion or there's something that you weren't able to ask, then we're prepared. But that was our only presentation scheduled for this evening. So we're going to go down the items. And so board members and community members, if you do have a question when I call out the number in the letter, just raise your hand and wait to be recognized by the chair. Item 5A is the Whittier IB training in June. Information has been there as presented. Ms. Fabian.
This will be for all of the conferences, just making sure that we're updating the per diem to the new standard of the travel dates have a lower per diem. I don't want anybody to be stuck with having to reimburse the district because of overspendage or not being reimbursed because they weren't given the proper allocation. Yeah, so on the days that you travel, your per diem is less than on the days that you are in the, in this case in Tahoe.
So when all of these come back, just make sure that they're updated to reflect the correct per diems. All right? But nothing specific to item 5A. Item 5B, Whittier IB training in August.
Oh, I'm just pleased that we're continuing to support our IB school, the first in Lake County, and I'm just pleased that the teachers and the coaches and everybody's getting the training that they need to continue that work, because it is tough work, but it is making a big difference. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Awesome. Item, we talked about 5C, so we are at 5D, which is renewal of consumables. Go ahead, Ms. Fabian.
Sorry, on this one, that was my fault. I forgot to send in the question on have we done inventory when we're looking at consumables? I know a lot of the renewals are like online platforms, but when it's like tangible items like textbooks or.
We did.
Okay.
We did. We went through teaching and learning along with EL and DL, went through the armory to determine what's what, and this is a good opportunity to thank all those folks who spent tireless hours going through that and organizing it. And yes, there's still a lot there, but we have to distribute them at different times, and so and it is a lot. No, but just to clarify, I'm glad you asked the question, but just to know that it is a lot, but we also have to distribute it at various times, and we're not using it all at one time, and so it's better to have it early on than not to have it. So thank you, and thanks to those teams for doing that work. Really appreciate it, and thanks to Jennifer Rice de los Sanchez for heading that up. Thank you.
So Dr. Cesario, I've been over to the armory, and I've had questions about the ASOP materials that are over there. And so you're saying that you all have went through that stuff over there, and so it is slated to be used when?
Jen, do you have a schedule when most of that's supposed to be distributed?
Because it is a lot.
It is a lot, yes.
Yes, and
As far for different curricular materials, there are different times in which it will be used. So one example will be for our science kits. Each science kit, as an example, is a box this big for one teacher, one investigation. And so they go out by quarter. So Bo goes in there, he sends it, he goes through the mail, make sure it gets to each school, it's teacher by name. That's one example. There's also been materials there as a part of our formal literacy plan that are repurposed, right? And so some of the materials are also there, hey, next year when you have more kids, this is the piece that will be sent to you. We also have diverse learner classrooms that have 3 to 4 different grade levels. Equitably, all the kids have access to every single grade level, but each school cannot hold all of those pieces. And so the warehouse is ours, under my understanding, to have those materials in which we have the opportunity to go there and sort it out. It's not a warehouse that we can't use, it's what we do use to help distribute the materials. That's my understanding.
So the other piece is that we did talk with LeBaron and the operations team about putting a storage unit adjacent to our elementary school buildings, and we decided against that, and for a number of reasons. So it's a big district. We have a lot of materials,
right,
and we need to make sure that we have them on hand.
Well, my biggest concern is not that they're warehoused, okay, or that we have all of the material. My concern is that we use
most definitely
all of the materials that are in the warehouse before we are ordering more, because it's a lot there, and we should not be ordering all of that other stuff if we have not used the stuff that we already have.
I think
and
that's.
I've been to both the warehouses.
I think that's a valid point that you're bringing up, and I just want to note that for some of these materials, like the ones that are denoted here, this item, it's a consumable. So those are items that are distributed and then consumed. And so for those items, we will be ordering those over and over. And then there are other items that we can reuse, right? But the consumables are things like workbooks where the student's going to write in it. And so, but that is something that we would continue, that you'll continue to see us reordering. So I just wanted to clarify.
Right, and just make sure that if we don't have buried in all of the stuff in there that we don't have the workbooks and stuff are already sitting
Yes.
there.
Yes.
We just have to make sure that that stuff isn't being double ordered just because we didn't dig deep enough in all of it that's over there. That's all I'm saying.
Most definitely.
Go ahead, Miss Fabian.
And I think you're right, it is an opportunity to thank everybody that does that inventory. It's not a fun job, but also to thank everyone for putting this in as early as possible, because we're in February already thinking about school year 26. Because we know that that's been a frustration for our teachers of not having the materials ahead of time to be able to preview. So thank you to everybody that's putting in all of these things, thinking forward of school year 26.
Thank you for bringing that up. We wanted to make sure we were working with the union to do what you just said, is get those materials in the hands of teachers before the school year starts so they can be prepared. So thank you for pointing that out.
Thank you. All right, item E, renewal of consumables for 6th through 8th grade ESL materials. Item F, renewal of Amplify curriculum embedded coach for SY26 K through 5. Item G, renewal of Amplify Boost Lectura digital licenses for SY26 K through 5. Go ahead, Ms. Lindsay.
I just have a comment on this. My kids use it. It's part of their daily home reading, and it's been really beneficial, at least in my household. So I'm glad we're renewing this. I'm just encouraging parents to double check that you're fully utilizing these resources. Even if you're not just using it for homework, you can have them do extra practice when they're not in school, etc. So I'm excited we're renewing this.
Yeah, I love Amplify. Yeah.
Thank you for the feedback.
And I think it's a general that we've said for all of these apps that are able to be utilized at home is how are we getting the word? How are we communicating I can't even talk anymore. How are we communicating to our families that they're able to utilize these at home? And how are we teaching them how to use this at home? So it's for all of these apps that are accessible at home, it's nice when we have like that communication piece so we know that families know how to use them and that they are able to use them.
Right.
Thanks for the feedback.
All right, we got H, renewal of second step tier 1 SEL curriculum. I, equipment to upgrade WHS wood slab to industry standards. Direct investment in our students. I mean, all of these items are, but sometimes you have to call it out. J, Woods 1, 2, and 3 curriculum approval for WHS.
I will make a comment to that point. Like, I really wish I had this opportunity back in school. Like, my husband does great with this kind of stuff, but like, I love that this is one of the pathways we're giving to our students.
Yep.
Thanks. I just want to make it public right now because I know our union leaders are watching, and so we have our curriculum council meeting on Tuesday where this will be voted on. So it hasn't been voted on them yet, but the board wouldn't have an opportunity to see it until afterwards, and we want to make sure that they approve it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to put it on the agenda. So go through curriculum council. Is it Monday or Tuesday? Monday.
Okay, perfect.
So it'll go on Monday, and there's been discussion about this, so it's not a surprise. But in just in a working relationship with the union, I want to be as transparent as possible that this item has yet to be approved through curriculum council, but wanted to put it on here so that it could be placed on the board agenda on Tuesday. So if in the event that there is an issue, we'll pull it, but wanted to make sure that you had that on there, and that just for the precise reason you stated, we want to make sure that we can get this approved as soon as possible and didn't want to wait any longer. But if they don't approve it, we'll take it off.
So just so the community is clear, will it be pulled during our session on
No.
Tuesday?
We would
Or
pull
board
it
docs will
before.
be updated prior to our meeting so the community community's aware it's not on there. Because we put this out on Friday.
Oh.
So
Right, so there's gonna be an update, so.
Yeah, it would be pulled at the meeting because it'd go live on over the weekend. So
Beautiful,
you're
that's what I just
absolutely
wanna
correct.
make sure is
Thank
is
you,
clear
Ms.
for
Lindsay.
expectations.
Well, and that's what I know. Appreciate the expectations, but just for clarity for the board, if we decide
What's going on
for
for
any
March?
reason that there's something that is not going to be acted on or voted,
Yeah.
there's not a 48-hour
Constraint on
requirement
that.
to do it. So
Right.
from a transparency standpoint, if we want them to be aware of what to look for, but either way would be appropriate is to pull it
Yeah.
or to go ahead and just leave it on the agenda and skip it when it comes up.
ASAP does not foresee any potential issue, but if we need more time, we can always take it.
Again, it was just for the sake of transparency. I don't want to surprise anybody at home.
I love the proactiveness.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think it's
Thank you.
it's important. So
But you guys are gonna have to start bringing things to us first before you guys approve stuff.
Right, that's what he did.
Yeah.
that's what I'm. Yes.
That's
Yes.
what he's doing.
Okay.
So, appreciate it, and again, if they choose not to act, but the board is now aware, if we had questions, same thing, we still have another opportunity to approve it. But yeah, we are at item K, the automation curriculum training and troubleshooting training, August 3rd through the 9th.
Corsica, I'm just asking a question.
Mm-hmm.
Corsica, they don't have the different online courses for some of these trainings and stuff that we are that we're doing.
I don't know for sure. I'd have to double check with David Marks. But the opportunity that this teacher has to go out there and train is with professionals in the industry. So he gets to work on the equipment. He gets to work with professionals who are actually working in it, collaborate with them, talk about projects. So it's a pretty neat opportunity for him.
Right, CT tends to be very hands-on.
Hands-on.
It's hard to
I
see on
know.
the screen.
Yeah, the location, I get that.
I don't have any questions. But that's you, right?
Mhm.
All right. Item L, renewal of Jocelyn Center partnership for SY 26.
My only question here is because, and I asked something similar for our BAM and WOW crew. So it says that for the caseloads that they're seeing, it's 32 students for their caseload approximately. Is that their sorry, friends. Is that their maximum caseload?
Yeah, 35. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, 35 is their max for their caseload.
Okay, so there is a little bit of wiggle room for
There-
this year if students need resources.
Yes, they're always very flexible and accommodating for something that might arise, for a family that needs support. They are excellent at making sure that we can provide whatever resources needed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And so the estimated total cost, are we getting results with our students through this partnership here? And based on the amount, are we getting what we are paying for?
Yes, so what I did this year is I did shift them around a bit so that they were stationed full-time at one school so they could have a more intense, more just in-depth relationship with that school, with their caseloads, with their families. And so then they can also do, or they do, they have like their pre and post depending on what kind of skills or therapies they're working on with the student. So they do look at that, like behavior, grades, and attendance too.
Yeah, how many schools are they in?
They are in 6.
6 schools?
Mhm.
Elementary?
All elementary.
Mhm, mhm.
And then this is.
Schools are right there, Miss.
Mhm.
Can I ask you a question? Who services students in another school? I see the 6 schools that they're working in, Carmen,
Right.
Clearview, Greenwood, Lyon, McCall, and Oakdale.
Right.
But if you have something going on in another school, can you use them, or do you
Right.
do they
So,
service the other?
We have 5 district SEL elementary counselors that are
Yes.
at other elementary schools.
Oh.
And then, yes, Jocelyn is always available to come in and support with a crisis if needed.
Okay.
I'll say, go ahead, Ms. Lindsay, you got a question or a comment? The need is immense. So off the top of my head, I can think of 10 different service providers that are operating in some form or fashion at Waukegan Public Schools, in addition to the supports that we have at the Wraparound Center. So, 16,000 students. Obviously, we see an increase in SEL needs and mental health needs. So, again, I think it's not a matter of if we need it, but if this is the right provider, and if you guys are making the recommendation and you feel good about it, and you have a structure that works, then I can support it.
Thanks.
All right, now we are at renewal of iQuest Science Materials, renewal of iReady, attendance at the College Board's AP Summer Institute, physics honors textbooks for conceptual physics, renewal of school links. Ms. Fabian.
I just want to say thank you to whoever put that presentation together. It gave us, I think that's what we continue to ask for, is as many data points as we can to understand if it's worth the investment. Was that you, Ms. Fulton? Probably. But it really does help
Thanks,
us to
Avanda.
see, yeah, thank you, Avanda, because it helps us to see, is this worth the investment? How many students are actually going in and utilizing it, and we're able to see the progression of years past to where it was to where it is now. And the only question I had was, looking at the data, is how we're going to get other middle schools on board. And I believe, again, that was Avanda that had a response for that on how they're going to really use the counselors to be able to push the other middle schools to use it as much as it looks like Jack Benny's leading the way there. But again, like, these are the types of presentations that we want to see, the information that we want to see in order to understand if the apps are worth the purchase.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Ms. Fulton.
Our renewal of one goal for post-secondary. Renewal of everyday math. IB professional development for high school leaders. That's fine. I guess my only question is it in line with your pillars and where we are in the work on the high school transformation plan?
For the IB, it is, because it's part of opening up opportunities for our students, and it's also part of with this continuum for IB, because otherwise the Whittier, it would end in middle school, but we really want to build this full continuum from early years program to middle years program to the high school, so we can have kids who walk away with their IB, the certification, what is it called? Yeah, the IB, they get their certificate. So, but yes, it is in alignment with our goals.
It's a
So I
pathway.
have a question about that then.
Go ahead, Ms. Gonzalez.
So is the goal to make Waukegan High School an all completely IB school?
No.
Okay, so then
No.
how are students going to need to go to through a specific IB pathway?
No,
Or, okay.
they can. We can offer that, but they can also they can also come to Waukegan schools as a freshman, and then start it there too. But ideally, we want this continuum to build as well.
But it's something that the students will have to opt into.
Yes.
Yes.
It's
How?
it's an opportunity. It is similar to if I'm interested in JROTC, then I can opt into JROTC.
Okay, it's not like an application. It's not like
There is no, it's not a,
Okay.
and thank you for bringing this up, because
Yeah,
this is
'cause-
often a misconception
Okay.
that it's elitist or it's not for all students. And it in fact is for all students.
Okay.
And so we are building a continuum so that we have students that are starting in Whittier. They would graduate and move into middle school and then high school. But if we had students who went to another elementary school or a middle school that didn't have those programs, they can still opt into that. And so those are some things that we're working out programmatically, but we also have to keep one thing in mind, and that is it takes multiple years.
Right.
We know that Whittier, it took
Planning.
4 years from the time they started the journey, they became a candidate school, and until they were authorized.
Okay.
Okay? And so that'll take some time.
I want to be very clear. This will be another pathway. I'm just calling it pathways because we've been using that word. But I don't know what that may look like. So when you said
Okay.
application, it's not, it may be a self-interest form. I don't know what that, but there will be something where a kid says, well, I want to go into HVAC. I want to go, but my interest is IB. So
Yeah.
I just want to be clear with the board that there will be some type of mechanism to identify what your interest is, what that is right now.
Okay.
I can't expound on. So if you give us time on that.
I just do want to make one thing clear, though, and is what I was saying before. It's not skill-based or that, because that is a misconception that it's only looking for students that are, no, it's students that have an interest in this type of program.
Yeah.
And it's open to all students of all ability levels. So
Okay.
just to be
How are
very
we-
clear.
How are we planning?
We've been
to
planning.
No, listen to my question. How are we planning to expose our students to know that this is out there?
So I
That
think
this
after the
is there.
conference, can we bring that back? Because that's a great
Yeah.
point, but I think that's what they're learning is, or not learning, they're still implementing it. So I think the board deserves an update on where we are in the high school transformation plan, and they can come back and present on if IB is one of those pathways, how would they make sure that we bring awareness to it? Because I agree with the superintendent. I think what you're saying is it's open to all individuals, but an IB pathway is a very specific, typically set of classes or structure and a way of learning. So I do want, instead of tonight where it's 9 o'clock and everybody's kind of little, it's just come back, present on kind
No
of where
problem.
the district is.
Of course.
and its
Yeah.
progress.
We'll be
I-
ready to do that.
And I think we
Yeah, I see
have
what
some
you're
other pieces to it. So we will come back and present on that.
Ms. Lindsay?
This just ties back to what I'm hoping to learn in the presentation is what flexibility between these pathways, whether it's IB, for students to be able to move within, right?
Yep.
Because if we have a student, I want them to explore things within our high school system, and I'm glad we're setting up multiple structures in place. But if they're locked in freshman year and it's not working for
Agreed.
them, like,
Yeah.
I just want to know what that flexibility
Sure.
could look like with these pieces, because I'd rather them move around with us
Totally
instead
agree.
of paying big bucks at a college and invest 2 years while it turns out I don't want this pathway. I want to change
Yeah.
fields, et cetera. So
We-
if that
we
could be
will-
embedded in, that would be very helpful for
Absolutely.
me.
Don't lock the students
We
into
will,
something.
we will touch on that.
Beautiful.
I can tell you that the team and I have discussed that we don't want anyone to be married to one thing for 4 years if it's not a good fit for them.
Beautiful.
And so we are discussing all that. So we will bring that back.
Thank you.
And I call out a lot of districts, but I think I've used this as a recommendation, and I do want to give kudos to where it's due. And I wouldn't even say kudos, but I think it's important for us to learn from other individuals. And so I think Wisconsin as a state are much further ahead of us as it relates to pathways. And Racine, particularly when you look at a similar student demographic in some of the buildings, they've been able to implement a lot of those pathways already. So I know we have individuals that have come from Racine that work in the school district. I know we have contacts there. So I'll just encourage us even to kind of see, hey, what works for you all, what doesn't work? Is there the flexibility and fluidity so that we aren't starting, as we're going to this conference and learning from some of the industry experts, actually learning from our neighbors with similar demographics about how it has
Sure.
or hasn't worked. So I'm just very familiar with their implementation of pathways where they have nursing programs, and there's the overlap, right?
Yeah.
It's like you may be in a nursing program, you may be an IB, you may be an accelerated, like I don't know, they don't call it AP, but whatever it is.
Yeah.
But then we all take cooking. And so, and then we all take this science. And so even though I'm in this pathway and there are different pathways, there is intersectionality. And I can make those changes and flows. So I think it's a great conversation. I know we had a presentation, so I think it's fair to get an update on where we are with the transition for the high school plan, and if they have more information on where they are in progress for pathways. I give Miss Lindsay, were you done?
No, I just
Okay.
wanted to add on, I wasn't aware Racine's doing a really good job, but I can double check and circle back to you, but either Crystal Lake or McHenry is also doing it. Like a colleague that I work with raved about all of the options that his freshman was going into, and they had a whole night, and it was information overload. I can't talk. So that's another resource, but I'll
All
circle
right,
back.
that's
and
good
give
to
you
know.
details.
Thank you for the feedback.
Miss Fabian, final comment on this one?
And I guess, and this also ties into the renewal of Cardinex, is also doing like a community outreach. So I know you want a presentation for the board, but I think we also need to have one more for families and have family input so that parents can also help their children navigate what those pathways look like and what they want to do. Because when you do these section counts, right, is how do you get everybody where they need to be? And we do have like the 8th grade night where families come out and learn all the different opportunities, but we don't even get half of our 8th graders out to see, that they can get, the engineering class or JRTC. So I think it's nice to have a board presentation, but when are we going to have one for the community, for the family to really see and understand the importance of that 8th grade night, so then they can sign up and plan, so that when you get to those section counts, you do have enough space available for all those popular classes.
Sure.
I think it's just a larger
Noted.
conversation.
Noted.
Thanks for the feedback.
Thank you.
I'll circle back.
So that it could be beforehand instead of afterwards.
I'll send an email, but one thought I had was to Miss Fabian's point, going to the middle schools and setting up little booths, because it's something that they're familiar with and the families can easily navigate their current school, because I know we have a whole Rising 9 as they transition into the high school. So
It definitely will be an articulation between the high school and the middle schools, right? So almost like that course catalog, majoring, etc. So we'll come back with all that.
great.
Renewal of Laserfish,
Laserfish, yeah.
Fish.
I'm glad you said that today, so I know it for Tuesday.
The approval for
Ms. Goose.
Ms. Guzman to attend the IAAP summit. Information has been presented.
Now, is this the same one that,
Yes.
so this is another one?
Right, it was
One
one on
operations
operations and one
On,
on
at ASAP, okay.
W, renewal of Cardonics. X, oh, you got Cardonics, go ahead.
Again, just a side note to families, the output is only as good as the input. So when you're doing section counts, if families register early and choose their classes early, then these section counts can be more accurate. Cardinix can only do so much. So just a reminder to families.
All right, item X, Aubrey renewal. Miss Fabian and Miss Lindsay.
You can go first. It's probably
I have a
not
lot. I asked questions and it just brought up more questions because I didn't really see a lot of data points. I saw that there were 800 posts, and this app is supposed to be family engagement, which is a two-way thing in my mind. That's what engagement is, right? We're posting things out. I don't see any data to see how many people open and read it, if those posts were unique, or were those similar to what we're doing with other applications like Remind, Class Dojo, the school messengers. in other words, are we duplicating services to justify spending on another application? Looking at the tokens, there was, I guess, 70 unique parent tokens in 3 months. That's a little bit concerning to me. But I also, and I know that the token follows the child, but how many tokens have been uploaded? With the token is the parent is able to use that token to attach their child to them, so that when you open the app, you can see things that are going on in that child's school, and you can see everything that basically is an infant in campus on that child. But are we looking at those measurements? How many tokens have been utilized to see, do we need to send a reminder? Because I haven't seen anything this school year about reminding us to get on Abre, to add the tokens. I saw Infinite Campus be pushed out and how to utilize that. I haven't seen anything on Abre. Again, I'm just looking at duplication of services and why this is different. I saw that there was videos that are being posted. Again, how many videos? How many watches do we have? How many students are logging in? For staff usage, there's an amount there too. Apart from posting flyers, why would staff open it? So what staff is opening? Community partners, there's another package for that. Are we, but that's what I'm saying. That's my point, is that there is no data point for any of these. If we're looking at the different packages and the quote, I don't have data point to support why this is different than what we have or how we've been utilizing it. And this is one that I've said it before. I know we've had it for years and we've spent a lot of money on it, and we're asking for more money. I think this is the 4th or 5th year, and I'm not seeing data points of implementation. So same thing with community partners. How actively are they using it? Are they updating it? So it's just, I have all of these questions because that there wasn't much to that presentation.
Okay, so there are a lot of questions that you just asked. So, and it seems.
Send it in an email just so.
Yeah, no, I know you did. No, I know. We'll answer them, and if there are still questions that you have, then we'll get you those answers, or and the board as well. So
which they
of course we will.
Dr. Cesario, it's 9, almost 9.
Yeah, she's not going to have the metrics.
I do have some of it. I just wanted to clarify.
And that's fair. What
Yeah.
I want to say is, if there's a request for additional information, my question to you first is this time sensitive? Meaning, are we any risk of delaying if we don't vote on it on Tuesday?
No, we can hold it until next month.
Yeah, that's all. It's 9
Okay.
o'clock, and I would much rather, instead of
fine.
it be prolonged back and forth, if there are questions and you already have them, just create a PowerPoint.
We'll do that.
We can share it even before the meeting. If you want to present on it at superintendent time, if it's ready by then. If not, we can hold it to the next student achievement.
We'll wait till the next student achievement.
Okay. And then we got Y, which is Pivot Learning Network, LLC. Yep. And sorry, because Ms. Lindsay had questions too, so if you want to say those for the good of the group so we can capture those, and they can make sure that when they give the information, it's all together.
I just pouted my way into a tiny violin. No, I wanted to give relatively similar feedback, and I'm not going to name names, but I know a person who's a very strong advocate of the capabilities of Abre. But you are a second one. And we're not utilizing it to its max capacity. So when we're talking about educating families with videos, that is an opportunity to do so. Like, that's another way that we can get the information out, record it once. We have a studio here to produce and get it out there. So I'm excited to see how we can really fully use this app and really get the most out of the investment with it. But I look forward to the presentation.
Thank you. All right, we got item Y, the Pivot Learning Network. Awesome. In item Z, the purchase of pre-K through 12 school supplies.
Now, are these the supplies that are going to be handed out to students, like at the resource fair before school?
If you look at the item, it says, yes, ma'am, it says to be given out at the 2025 Back to School Resource Fair. Total costs, it's right there.
And so, okay, along with this, the question is, are the students still receiving supply lists for their classes?
There's universal supply lists per grade, by grade levels. So, meaning, go ahead, I'm sorry.
And
Ms.
some
Leslie.
schools do supply, the school supplies themselves within their school-based or site-based budgeting program as well.
Yeah, and, yeah.
But it's the same. So if my kid goes to Carmen Buckner or if they go to Little Ford, the second graders all need the same thing. So I think that was a important step one, because if the district is providing supplies, they can buy it, in bulk, which allows us to save. I know that was one of the strategies that even Miss Fabian implemented when she was with FACE. So the fact that it took us 4 years, well, more than that, but 4 years under this.
I started with 0 budget and 0 staff, so I'm excited to where we're at.
So I do, I supported it. Like Ms. Lindsay said, that a lot of our schools, the schools are just taking on these costs so our students have what they need for school. Go ahead, Ms. Fabian.
But to this point, and I know I've already sent it up the chain, and you guys can come back with an answer, but my concern is I received, and so did several parents, a push for fundraising for the back-to-school fair. So if the board is committing to purchasing these items to distribute specifically to our families, why are we then also asking our families to fundraise for this fair? And this fair, I have personal knowledge, has always been sponsored from outside entities, so we've never had to ask our families to contribute at all. So that was just my frustration when I saw that come in.
Sure, thank you for the concern, Ms. Fabian. Good evening, colleagues, board presidents, members of the board. Thank you for the question. We always are looking at ways to look at innovative ways to continue to find ways to provide information and resources for our students. The fundraiser that was sent out has so far generated $1,071, which will go directly to the opportunity to purchase anything else that we aren't able to purchase on the top of what the board may authorize when this vote goes through. So the fundraiser is a small amount of money that would potentially be able to provide additional resources on top of what the board may allocate.
I guess my frustration is, again, the resource fair is to provide resources for the families, but we're asking the families to provide to the resource fair. So in the past, we've never asked families to do that. We've always had sponsorships and partnerships to provide that. So have we looked into those sponsorships and partnerships first before we ask for this, especially when the board has been committing to provide funds, not just for the supplies, but I know in the past we've even provided for the food and all of that. So that's my concern, because we're also always asking parents to provide fundraisers for their specific school to have certain events or to do PBIS things. So I'm all about fundraising, but I just think that we need to look at the purpose and the audience of who we're asking funds for and for what purpose.
Understood. Thank you for the feedback. The email went to through FACE liaisons to be able to drum up support through their staff, from families who potentially might be able to support additional. Not every family is in the same situation, and so sometimes people can provide additional funding for others who may be in need. And really, it was just an opportunity to think of another way of potentially providing resources. We know the board has been phenomenal with supporting the requests that we have come to the table with every year for the Back to School Resource Fair. We're very grateful for all the donations that our sponsors have. We continue to have community partnership meetings on a regular basis with all of our organizations that partner with us. And so this was just an outside-the-box creative way of thinking of another way of potentially seeing what this could do. It's the first time we've done a fundraiser in this degree for this purpose. And so it hasn't yielded a whole bunch of funds for us at this point in time, but it was a good first try, and we appreciate the feedback, and we'll be mindful of that moving forward. Understood. Thank you for the feedback. Hi, Mr. Riddle.
Ms. Gonzalez and Mr.
sorry.
Riddle.
Well, I was just gonna echo what Ms. Fabian said, but I also, it's like a yes and no for me, because I think that, I agree that not every family is in the same situation, and some are in a position to give, even if it's a couple dollars or whatever. I think for me, though, I agree with Ms. Fabian that if it were specific to a a particular, I don't want to say item, or like a project.
Right.
You know, families are willing to give. I mean, $1,000 doesn't really go far for a district as large as ours. But I know that there are families who want to, you know, have that relationship be reciprocal and like give back. So maybe if it was targeted in a different way, maybe not connected to this event, maybe for something else, or kind of like in addition to this, that would make the situation a little bit better in my eyes. But you know, you said it was a pilot. You gained $1,000 and that was the experiment. But let's see what else we can do, and if there's other school projects that you know, could better be fundraised for.
Thank you for the feedback.
Can I just jump in real quick? I'm gonna own this. I think it was good intent. Impact may have not landed the way it was supposed to. And so what I've seen, and when this was brought to my attention today, so in complete transparency, we've seen where one of our schools may be trying to fundraise and the way it's landing. So Nick and I talked today about looking at how these fundraisers are launched at the district level for approval.
They should be launched at the district level, so I appreciate that.
Launched at the district level for approval, and just, you know, the political impact or the sensitivity. So I'm going to say good intent. The impact may have not landed well. We apologize for that. I'm going to own it. My team's going to bake out a process on where we look at these, and so that we can say yay or nay, this may be a good endeavor or not. So I will own that personally, and we're going to build out a process around it.
Thank you, Superintendent. I appreciate that.
Ms. Leslie?
So yes, agreed, appreciate that. Can't remember who I was speaking to within the district for it, but when I was in Toronto, you could go to like a Tim Hortons, which if you can, I suggest you go. They had
good coffee.
Yeah, they're so good. They had these little like stand-up cards with a like a tap and pay for donations, right? And so I think that could be something to look into for our district, and not just a place around like Waukegan businesses, but going out broader to Lake County, right? Because if we do have a lot of people coming into Waukegan, especially with like the courthouse and et cetera, that maybe have more finances than others do in our community, but looking to branch out broader across Lake County to target certain initiatives to say, hey, if you have an extra $10 today and you want to donate it to Waukegan Public Schools, here's a quick tap and donate and be done with it. So as you're looking to broaden that out, that's just one suggestion that I've had in the past.
Sorry, just shameless plug. I know.
Let me do it. Let me do it.
Okay, go ahead. You do it.
And if I'm wrong, you tell me I'm wrong.
No, you're not gonna be wrong.
But when I
Go
was
ahead.
thinking about it, is we have a schools foundation,
Yeah.
and I think this is one of the ways that we can better partner to support one another. Is because the solicitation it does intent versus impact. If the foundation is raising money and resources in order to assist with the school district people, it's a broader, more expansive net, may get more different things. You can direct those funds maybe even a little bit more easily for a specific thing. I do like the idea, I think sometimes when we think about families, right, I work for an organization or corporation, so I got solicited. And as a parent, maybe I'm a business owner. Maybe I have a business in Waukegan. Maybe I work for a company or organization. So I also don't want us to eliminate those opportunities because we don't know who all our parents are and they're connected with. So I agree. Let's think about it. Let's
buying popcorn.
Well, popcorn. It's popcorn though. If I want popcorn, I buy it. If I don't, I liked it. So I was ready to go all in. I just didn't like that I couldn't tie it to my kid because I wanted him to win. So I didn't receive it the same way. I understand it. So I saw it as a fundraising opportunity. Maybe before we launch them, it could be discussed. Is this an opportunity for the school district, or is this a better opportunity to partner with our schools foundation as we try to increase the impact and the reach of that organization as well. So great discussion. Glad that we're buying the school supplies. If you can support and you would like to sponsor our back to school drive, I'm sure the FACE department will accept those funds and resources. And with that, I'd like a motion to adjourn.
At 9:02, I motion.
Motion by Ms. Lindsay, seconded by Mr. McBride. All in favor signify with aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. Meeting is adjourned.